Hey everyone, welcome to FanFic Canon. Thanks for hitting play. I'm thrilled to bring this fan-made story to life for you. If you enjoy the ride and want more narrated fanfics, smash, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss an episode. And if you want audiobook of a novel of your choice, join my Patreon. Request any title that's freely available online, and I'll produce a full narration just for you. Now, let's dive into today's adventure.
Damon ended the call and let out a long sigh. Carlisle's decision still annoyed him. He really left Bella alone in a forest with Victoria still out there. Foolish man, Damon muttered. Not that it's my problem. And if the Volturi ever learn about me, and they're stupid enough to show up, they'll die. In the forest, Bella lay collapsed on the forest floor, sobbing until her voice gave out. When the tears finally stopped, her eyes turned empty, glassy, as if someone had hollowed out her soul. She wandered aimlessly through the trees, barely aware of her own footsteps. A massive wolf had already picked up her scent. Growl, rustle. Bella didn't react, didn't even blink. She just continued walking, lost inside herself. Through the brush stepped Sam. A day later, Jesse arrives. Jesse approached what remained of the werewolf camp. The smell of blood saturated the entire area, heavy enough to sting the nose. Tents were ripped apart, the ground torn and clawed. It didn't take a genius to see what had happened. Looks like they tore each other apart, Jesse murmured. He crouched, studying the ground, the scents, the scattered footprints. This lines up with Jason's ability. There were multiple scents, not just werewolves but others he didn't recognize. The trail continued out of the camp, splintering in several directions. The farther he walked, the more obvious it became that a few had escaped, but changed somehow. Their scents carried a subtle shift at the edge of perception. So they survived, or something changed them, Jesse said quietly. I'll follow the trail. If Jason's alive, he's probably wishing he wasn't. He sped off. In Forks, Bella's house. Bella lay curled on her bed, face buried in her sheets. It had only been a day since Edward left, but she looked like someone who'd lost years of life. She'd wandered the forest alone until Sam found her. Charlie had been terrified. Edward didn't even know if Victoria was dead. He didn't know Damon existed. He didn't know what threats circled Bella. Bella didn't think about that. She couldn't. She was drowning too deeply in her grief. Then someone knocked on the door. Knock. Knock. Dad, I'm fine. Just leave me alone, Bella mumbled. It's good that you're fine, a bright voice answered, but I'm not your father. Bella's eyes shot open. Recognition hit her like lightning. She bolted to the door and flung it open. Alice, you're here. Did Edward come back too? Where is he? Alice smiled softly. Hi, Bella. Didn't Edward tell you anything? He just said you were all leaving. But you're here, so he must be back, right? Alice shook her head. Jasper and I never left. The family split. Edward is still gone. Bella's face collapsed immediately. But then another thought sparked. You know where they are, don't you? Of course I do. Then take me to him. Please. No, Alice said firmly. I won't go looking for them. Their choice to leave means their choice to stay away. Tears welled in Bella's eyes. Please, Alice. I can't live without him. I feel incomplete. I know how you feel, Alice said softly. But I still won't take you. Bella's hope shattered, then rose again with a desperate new idea. Then turn me, she whispered. Make me a vampire. No, Alice didn't even pause. Why not? I don't want to. I could kill you, and Edward should be the one to turn you. But he's too blinded by his own stupidity. Please, Alice. I'm too weak like this. If I'm a vampire, he won't have a reason to reject me. Bella, Alice sighed. I won't do it. And even if you become a vampire, there's no guarantee he'll come back. He was quick to leave you. Why be so quick to chase him? She stepped back toward the door. I just wanted to check on you. And don't forget, your father, Jacob, your friends, they all still care about you. Your world isn't just Edward. Alice left. Bella stood there, trembling, stuck between despair and the faintest spark of resolve. With Damon. You're really considering turning her? Rosalie asked. Damon leaned back, amused. Maybe. What would hurt Edward more than knowing I turn his mate? Rosalie raised an eyebrow. Assuming she still is his mate after you turn her. That would be even better, Damon said. Stealing his last chance at happiness. Does she really deserve to be used for something like that? Rosalie asked quietly. Damon shrugged. Maybe I'll be punished in my next life. Rosalie smiled faintly. Then I'll take that punishment with you. We're in this together. Damon chuckled. Good. Then let's enjoy this life and deal with consequences later. Then I'll share the punishment with you. We're in this together, Rosalie said. Damon smiled. Good. We'll just enjoy our life now and worry about consequences later. 2 weeks later. 2 weeks slipped by quickly after the Cullens left Forks. Carlisle kept his word. He returned twice, each time checking on the newborn, and tried to convince Alice and Jasper to rejoin the family. Both refused. Neither had any intention of leaving Forks. Most days, Alice and Jasper spent their time relaxing. Alice painted, wandered town, or sat with Jasper and Rosalie. Jasper, on the other hand, got pulled into Damon's little chaos crew, Damon, Max, and Ocean. The three had decided the best way to pass time was to prank the shapeshifters. They'd sneak on a Quileute land, lure the pack in, then split one wolf from the others. Once isolated, the victim suffered harmless but humiliating punishments, being shaved bald in wolf form, or waking up with fur dyed neon green or bright blue. Nothing that caused harm, but enough to bruise egos and spark arguments in the tribe. It was only a matter of time before the shapeshifters declared them enemies. Bella, meanwhile, had improved after Alice's first visit, but only slightly. She moved through her days slowly, quietly, weighed down by depression. The biggest change was her mindset. It had shifted from how do I get Edward back to he doesn't want me. Why should I care? But everyone knew the truth. If Edward walked through the door right now, that resolve would crumble instantly. The mate bond wasn't something human could break with simple willpower. Her new perspective didn't come from nowhere. Alice had been visiting her regularly. Whether Alice meant to or not, she had been showing Bella the reality of the vampire world. No fairy tales, no sugarcoating. She told her about losses, dangers, the Volturi, the cost of immortality. Bella finally understood vampires for what they were, not what she imagined. It changed nothing. She still begged Alice to turn her every time they met. Alice always gave the same answer. Whether Bella wanted to become a vampire for love or for power was still unclear. Maybe even she didn't know. At Damon's house, life was normal at Damon's home. If normal meant supernaturals lounging around. Some watched movies, some swam, some quietly read in a corner. Damon and Rosalie were doing yoga. I still don't understand why I have to do this, Damon muttered. It's simple, Rosalie said. Because you love me. Now stop complaining. Next pose. Damon obeyed without another word. He didn't mind doing it with her. It seems things are getting interesting, he said suddenly. Rosalie didn't look up. Stop talking. Move your left leg back more. The others inside can handle whoever's coming. Unexpected visitors. An old pickup truck rolled up Damon's driveway. Inside sat an elderly man and a young man with a stormy expression. When they parked, the younger man helped the old man into a wheelchair. Both wore matching looks, frustration bordering on anger. They reached the front door. Knock, knock, knock. Ocean opened it, blinking at them. Can I help you? He asked, sounding genuinely confused. The young man stepped forward, but the old man grabbed his wrist, stopping him. Ocean clicked his tongue. That's scary. Learn to control that temper or you'll lose your head someday. Sam, calm down, the old man warned quietly. The elderly man looked at Ocean. I'm here to meet the one in charge. Oh, and what makes you think you can meet him? Ocean asked lightly, not even pretending to hide the challenge in his tone. Are you going to show me the way or not? The old man said, ignoring the question completely. Ocean stared at them for a moment before turning away. Fine. Follow me. They trailed him through the house until they reached the garden entrance where Damon and Rosalie were still stretching. Ocean led them across the open space. Master, we have guests. I'll be right there, Damon called. He stood, dusted off his hands, and walked over with a pleasant smile. Hey, I'm Damon. Good to meet you both. What can I do for you? The old man didn't waste a second. I'm here to talk about the recent problems between our groups. Damon blinked. I have no idea what you're talking about. Sorry, what was your name again? I'm here to talk about the recent problems between our groups, stated the old man. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry I forgot your name, said Damon. Understood. My name is Billy, and this is Sam, said Billy. Nice to meet you. So why have you decided to interrupt my day? Asked Damon. You know why I'm here, said Billy, his tone of voice as serious as possible. Seeing Billy was serious, Damon decided to stop fooling around. He had no problems with the shapeshifters. He just used them as a way to relieve some of his boredom. All right, you here because of the incidents that happened to your people, right? Asked Damon. That is correct, answered Billy. All right then. I promise not to trespass on your land again, and to leave your people alone. As long as your people don't attack us, we won't touch them again, said Damon. Billy's facial expression did not change, still serious as he looked at Damon. He wanted more than just this. After all, Damon had harassed his tribe for days, but for what they told him, it seems they could easily kill them at any point. He knew better than to anger people who could kill him and his tribe easily. That is enough, Billy answered, being wise and not pushing the matter anymore. Why do you have that bloodsucker with you? Asked Sam. Clearly he didn't like the fact that Rosalie was a vampire. As soon as he said that, he knew it was a mistake if the eyes filled with hostility staring at him from all sides were anything to go by. His instincts were screaming at him to run, but he knew better. Running now accomplished nothing. Everyone present in this house was faster than him in his wolf form. It was foolish to try and outrun them now. Left with only one choice, Sam took action. I'm sorry, he apologized. Immediately, the hostility he was feeling decreased. It's fine, but there won't be a next time, said Damon. Billy had just watched the situation unfold in front of him. He decided something. Why stop at just making the two parties stop harassing each other? Why not form an alliance? Why don't we form an alliance? Billy said. Damon's attention returned to him. This wasn't a bad idea, but it wasn't particularly a good one either. We gain nothing by forming an alliance with them. If there's an enemy we can't deal with, neither can they. But they aren't completely useless, though, Damon. All right, let's form an alliance. Damon agreed, putting his hand forward to seal the deal with a handshake. Great. Then this alliance is simple. We help each other when an enemy appears we can't deal with on our own, said Billy. That's fine. Damon agreed easily. After the alliance was formed, Billy and Sam were invited to have lunch with the group. Since they had formed an alliance, they saw no reason not to get to know each other. While the house of Rosalie and Damon was filled with laughter and happiness, there was another house the direct opposite. Since the Cullens had left Forks and arrived at their new residence, things have gotten worse. The relationship between Edward and the rest of the family was currently in a very critical state for one more reason, and the other children of the family might just leave with one more push. After they had arrived in their new home, Edward had been getting on everyone's bad side. He was complaining about a decision he made, angering everyone making their decision to come here feel less and less like the correct one. The family was already in bad condition when Alice and Jasper decided to leave, but his complaints had made things worse. It wasn't long until the rest of the Cullen family fell apart, unless something managed to save it, but right now, that seemed like a miracle would have to occur. Underscore underscore. Jesse was following the scent he had picked up in the werewolf camp and was now approaching Forks. The scent is getting stronger, said Jesse. Jesse was currently in the forest, not too far from Forks. The date he was to return was approaching, and he knew he wouldn't be able to get back in time. If he didn't, there was no telling what his master would do to him. And Jesse knew this as he stood thinking of what to do. It seems I can only contact someone close to the castle and let them inform Master, said Jesse. Coming to this conclusion, Jesse no longer stayed standing as he rushed forward approaching Forks. It wasn't long before Jesse arrived at Forks, and when he did, the first thing he did was find a spot waiting for someone to pass by. Jesse needed a phone, and he planned to take one from the first person that passed by while quenching his thirst as well. It wasn't long before someone approached where Jesse was, and without looking at the person's face, he rushed out and pulled them back to the secluded area. Only then did he look at the girl he had captured, but a surprised expression appeared on his face when he looked at her face. At Damon's house, the banquet was still going on. Everyone was having a good time, but suddenly Damon and Max stopped what they were doing and looked in the direction of the town. A vampire appeared in town, said Damon. Yeah, it smells different, says Max. What are you going to do? Asked Max. What should I do? This isn't my responsibility, but the vampire smell is similar to the one we meet at the wolf camp, said Damon. Oh, well, we need him alive, says Max. You are right. Kane, go to town, there is a vampire there. Bring it back alive, said Damon. Yes, master. Kane stopped what he was doing and sped off. Go to town, there is a vampire there. Bring it back alive, said Damon. Yes, master. Kane stopped what he was doing and sped off. Jesse looked at the girl he captured, and it surprised him the look she was giving him wasn't what he expected. He expected fear, maybe surprise, these were the norm. But the girl before him had a look of happiness as she looked at him. Girl, give me your phone. Sure. The girl gave Jesse her phone without any fuss, the look of happiness still present on her face. Ignoring her for the moment, Jesse failed a number and put the phone to his ear. Hello. A voice sounded from the other side of the phone. Colin, it's Jesse. Jesse, the voice sounded confused. Hearing the confusion in the voice, Jesse sighed. He expected this. Look, Colin, I have no time for your games. Tell Master that I've followed the werewolf trail. Most of them have been killed, and Jason is dead. I'm just tracking down the rest of them, then I will return, said Jesse. Master? Werewolves? The voice sounded even more confused, but Jesse didn't care as he hung up the phone and looked back at the girl before him. Before Jesse could say something, the girl spoke. Can you turn me? She asked. This question surprised Jesse greatly. The Volturi is supposed to make sure humans don't know about vampires, so how did this girl know about their existence? How do you know about us? Jesse asked. Bella, hearing this question, stopped. She was a lot of things, but she wasn't completely stupid. If she told this man about the Cullens, it might create trouble for them since she knew about the rules of their world. She wasn't supposed to know they exist. Seeing that the girl wasn't speaking, Jesse grabbed one of her hands and squeezed. Ah, she cried out as she felt the pain. I'm waiting for your answer, said Jesse. I meet a passing vampire and she told me, she said. If you're going to lie to me, make up a better lie than that, said Jesse. Jesse applied more force to her hand as she screamed once again. Tears were streaming down her face. Clearly, she was in pain. Foolish girl, what made you think that asking a random vampire to turn you would end well? I see no scenario that would end with you alive. If you don't die from the pain of transforming, the vampire you asked would have probably drained you of all your blood, leaving you dead. She stood whimpering in pain. Clearly, she had not thought this through and had acted on impulse. Not that it mattered, though. Jesse had grabbed someone random from the streets, and it just so happened to be her. Jesse had no intention of leaving whoever he had caught alive. After drinking his fill, he would kill them instead of leaving them alone. This was the best course of action, as if the person he drank from turned and couldn't control themselves and exposed the vampire community, it would be bad for everyone. But you are lucky. Your foolishness had led to an opportunity. I'll drink my fill from you, and if you are still alive, after I'll leave you alive to go through the transformation. Please. It's too late to beg now. My mind's already made up. Without any warning, Jesse sunk his teeth into her neck and began to suck her blood. Pain, unbearable pain, assaulted the young woman as Jesse drank her blood quickly. The strength left her body bit by bit, from standing to leaning on the wall behind her for support to now falling to the ground. Almost all of her strength had left her body. Whoosh! It was at this moment that Cain arrived. It seems I'm a little too late, said Cain as he looked at Jesse drinking the blood of a woman. Cain moved quickly and appeared behind Jesse and squeezed his neck. The pain forced Jesse to stop drinking Bella's blood. As he let go, Cain wasted no time as he slammed Jesse into the wall 3 times before beating in his face until he was unconscious. Holding Jesse in one hand, he picked up Bella in the other and left as quickly as he came, leaving behind only droplets of blood, as the only sign apart from the broken wall, as proof he was here. Damon's house. It hasn't been long since Cain left, and the rest of the group had already gathered together waiting for his return. Are you sure Cain will be okay? Asked Rosalie. He will be fine. Even if the vampire is stronger than normal vampires, he won't be much of a match for Cain, said Damon. I hope no one gets hurt before Cain reaches there, said Alice. Oh, that's a surprise. There more than one? No, that's not right. Something is not right, said Damon. More than one? Asked Rosalie. Cain is returning with a vampire and additional company, said Damon. After Damon said that it wasn't long till Cain burst through the doors of the house, carrying 2 people in his arms. Boss, he bites someone before I arrived. Dropping both of the people he was carrying, Cain walked into the kitchen. I'm hungry. Thanks, Cain, said Damon as Cain walked away. As the group looked at the 2 people who Cain had dropped on the ground, and Damon, Rosalie, Alice, Jasper, Sam and Billy were shocked. Bella. Alice ran forward checking on Bella. So he bit Bella. Well, things have officially fallen off track. There is no way things will continue as they did in the movies, thinks Damon. Well, I don't care either way. So he bit Bella. Well, things have officially fallen off track. There is no way things will continue as they did in the movies, thinks Damon. Well, I don't care either way. Underscore, 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 Damon had no thoughts of trying to keep things in line with the movies. If he did, he wouldn't have done a lot of what he has done so far. Looking at Bella on the ground, Damon wasn't exactly sure what to do about her. He looked at her condition, and it was clear she wouldn't survive being transformed into a vampire. She had lost too much blood and was already way too close to dying. The pain would kill, as she was currently too weak to bear it. "Bella! Bella!" Alice shouted, looking at Bella, still bleeding out on the floor. "She won't survive the transformation," said Jasper, saying what everyone present was thinking. Hearing this, Alice seemed even more worried. Even if she didn't exactly like Bella as much as she did in the show, it was still Alice. She couldn't bring herself to hate Bella and still cared for her. Why else would she have gone looking for her after the Cullens left? She's got her wish. She wanted to be a vampire. This is her chance. If she can't survive, it just means she wasn't meant to, says Rosalie, clearly showing how little she cared for Bella's survival. "So, what are we going to do with her body?" asked Ocean. Billy and Sam looked at him, clearly not happy with his question. But it was clear with the kind of personality Ocean had, this would do nothing but encourage him. "What? It's clear she's going to die. I was only asking so we could have things already planned," said Ocean, clearly not caring about the feelings of Billy. "Boy, watch your mouth. This is someone I care about," says Billy, clearly angry. "Calm down. So she dies, what's the big deal?" asked Ocean, clearly playing with Billy's feelings. Sam, to the side, was already getting angry also. It was clear that any second he was going to transform. "I bet she asked to be bitten if anything I heard about her is true," said Ocean. And that was it. Sam jumped at Ocean transforming midair. But this was the worst choice he could have made. Before he could even reach close to Ocean, he was thrown to the side as a giant-sized Max rushes to him and forcefully holds Sam down with his paw. Max had used just enough force to knock Sam away, and enough to hold him down without causing any damage to him. When Ocean and Billy had their exchange, the other didn't interfere, as they had already noticed Ocean's personality. Once he noticed you seemed emotional on a topic, he would continue on with it, taking up the opposite of whatever you thought, just to get a reaction from the other party. When he wasn't doing this, he took nothing seriously, finding a joke in everything. So as the other noticed things got out of hand, Max was already ready to interfere. As if Sam had managed to reach Ocean, Sam would have been heavily injured from Ocean's counterattack. "What the meaning of this?" asked Billy, clearly not happy with the current situation. "He's not wrong about her probably asking to be bitten, and Max is not hurting the boy, so you can relax," said Damon. Billy wasn't satisfied with the answer, but what could he do other than accept it? "Ocean, not everyone understands your personality. Dale it down around our new allies," says Damon, looking at Ocean. "I can do that, Master," said Ocean. "Good. I'll be straight with the situation she's in. She will die from the transformation. There is no way she could survive the transformation without some sort of help," said Damon. Billy quickly caught the meaning in his words as he spoke. "So if there's a way to save her then," said Billy. "Of course there is, but I'll be honest with you, it's not a sure way of saving her. Doing this will cause her even more pain. So what you might be doing is just causing her more pain before her death," said Damon. "Just do it. I have to try to save her," says Billy. "All right then. One of you guys bite her while injecting your venom into her body," says Damon, looking at the male werewolves present. They all looked at Damon with clear shock on their faces. "I'm out," says Ocean. "Me too," says Kane. The rest were too slow in their reaction or too shocked by the order to react before Kane or Ocean. "She doesn't have much time left. One of you decide if you're going to do it or not," says Damon. "Master, shouldn't you tell us what's going to happen after the bite?" asked Chris. "Well, the most important thing would be there is a chance of her becoming your mate. Only a chance, and a low chance at that. If she hadn't had a mate already, the chances would have been higher. Right now the chances are pretty low, but there is still a chance of it happening," says Damon. "Then I'm out. I'm too old for the girl," says Chris. With Chris also refusing to bite Bella, the only other person left would be Joey. Damon wouldn't force them to bite Bella, as the chance of forming a mate bond was present, and he wouldn't force it on them. As for Bella, she doesn't have a choice, as they were trying to save her life. Joey was the youngest of the male werewolves Damon turned anyway, so this was the best choice. If he would agree to do, it was up to him now, though. So, Joey, what is going to be? Will you bite the girl or leave her? I understand if you don't. Since the consequences are very serious, said Damon. So, Joey, what is going to be? Will you bite the girl or leave her? I understand if you don't. Since the consequences are very serious, said Damon. Underscore underscore. I'll do it. Who knows, this might end up being something good, and I can't just let the girl die, says Joey. So what exactly do I need to do? Joey turned and asked Damon. All you need to do is bite her and pump enough of your venom into her to balance out the vampire venom already in her system, said Damon. Joey wasted no time acting as he stepped forward and bit Bella on her hand. Well, I forgot to mention that she would need at least half his aura to heal herself and make it through the transformation, but it seems I'm going to have to give him some of mine to keep them both alive, thinks Damon. He walks forward and forcefully shoves his fingers into Joey's back. Ah! Joey cried out in pain. Joey, bear with the pain, it would calm down in a moment. Damon spoke, and Damon was with the pain Joey was feeling disappeared after a few seconds. Don't stop biting her, just stop giving her venom, Damon instructed Joey. After Joey stopped supplying venom to Bella, it was time for the transformation to truly start. The werewolf venom was just needed to stop what the vampire venom was doing to her body. Now the werewolf venom had killed off the vampire venom. To put it simply, a new transformation started. The truth of the matter was, currently Bella's body was in a worse shape than it was before the introduction of the werewolf venom to her system. After being a battleground for the two different venoms, it made sense that her body was in even worse shape, and if she were to undergo the transformation right now, normally she would die without a doubt. But Damon had taken all of this into account when he told one of the werewolves to bite her. From what Damon knew, as long as the werewolf venom won in the end, and Bella started transforming into a werewolf if her body couldn't make it, it would take aura from the werewolf that bit her to heal her and complete the transformation. But this created a new problem. Bella's body was in a worse shape than Damon had imagined it would be in after the battle between the two venoms. Now, if the transformation occurred, and she took aura from Joey to complete it, it would take all of Joey's aura to make sure she survived the transformation. And because Joey's aura would forcefully break the connection between them to keep Joey alive instead of letting Joey be killed, it would, in turn, leave Bella with insufficient aura to complete the transformation and die. Damon had spotted this problem when he acted and dug his fingers into Joey's back. By doing this, Damon would act as an aura source for Joey to pull from. When Bella pulled aura from Joey, Joey would pull aura from Damon when his aura reached a dangerous level, making him have enough to supply Bella with enough aura to complete the transformation. And so her transformation started. Bones broke, her skin cracked, adding injuries onto the ones she already had, increasing the amount of aura needed to carry on the transformation. Joey had started to pull from Damon earlier than he expected, but the amount of aura being pulled from Damon was like a river being pulled from an ocean. It affected Damon barely, as he stood there looking to make sure to only supply aura to heal her injuries. Damon had noticed the difference between the werewolves he turned. They weren't the same strength. Even if the difference wasn't huge, it was still there. Max and Kane were the strongest werewolves Damon had made. He had noticed the amount of aura he provided during transformation would affect the strength of the werewolves produced. And even though he didn't bite Bella, he was still supplying aura to her transformation now. Seeing the last of Bella's injuries healed and her body starting to be strengthened by the aura, Damon pulled his finger out of Joey's back, stopping his aura from being used for anything further. Now the only thing providing aura to strengthen Bella's body was Joey. With this, Bella would be weaker than the werewolves he created. She would be the second generation, and anyone she bites would be the third. Bella would still be able to control her transformations, but she would be weaker than the weakest vampire Damon turned. After Damon stepped back, he looked on to see half of Joey's aura used to strengthen Bella. Bella was now a fully transformed werewolf, even though she was unconscious. But Damon noticed there was still movement from Joey's aura as it forcefully entered Bella's body and destroyed the bond that was there before, while forcefully forming a new one between Joey and Bella. Damon was surprised, to say the least. He knew a mate bond could be formed, but he didn't expect it to be like this. It was clear that the aura on Joey took action itself to destroy the bond between Bella and Edward. The transformation was complete. The bond between Edward and Bella was still stable after the transformation. If Damon would describe what happened, he would say it seemed like the aura was upset. It was used to save the girl's life, yet she had a mate bond between her and a vampire. And from what Damon saw, Bella's aura didn't even try to stop Joey's aura from doing what it was doing. But as Damon thought about it, it made sense, seeing as Bella was alive thanks to Joey, and most of the aura in her body came from Joey. So it made sense that they wanted to be mates, seeing the high compatibility between them. But as Damon thought about it, it made sense, seeing as Bella was alive thanks to Joey, and most of the aura in her body came from Joey. So it made sense that they wanted to be mates, seeing the high compatibility between them. At the same time that the mate bond between Edward and Bella broke and was replaced, somewhere in a snowstorm, Edward dropped to his knees in pain. He let out a heart-wrenching scream as he endured the pain of having his mate bond forcefully broken. Even though the process between Joey and Bella was painless, it was only because their aura acted together to form the bond and break the already existing one. While one Edward's, and it was done quickly and with immense force, causing him to feel a lot of pain, more so than when he was turned into a vampire. Edward could be seen rolling in the snow, clicking his heart, as venom leaked from his eyes and ears. At this moment, it was unsure what Edward was thinking. His mate bond was gone. It could mean either his mate was dead or somehow the mate bond was destroyed. Of course, currently, Edward didn't have the time to think of these things as he started spasming in pain. The pain was so bad that at one point he lost his voice. Unable to scream, Edward was currently flopping around in the snow like a fish out of water. This continued for hours until finally the pain subsided. Now he was left in the snow as he found the strength to claw his way back home. As Edward clawed his way back home, currently in Forks, Bella had finally opened her eyes and was looking around to find out where she was. The last thing she remembered was a vampire biting in her neck and then the pain that assaulted her. Well, look who finally woke up. Bella screamed and covered her ears as she found the voice way too loud. Huh? The voice sounded confused. What's her problem? Ocean stepped forward and asked. It would seem she doesn't know how to control her newfound powers, said Damon. But we did, said Kane. Of course you did. You guys were werewolves before I turned you. She was a human. I make sense she can't handle the enhanced senses yet. But it shouldn't take too long, said Damon. Bella, Alice shouted, not bothering with what Damon and the other just discussed. Alice jumped onto Bella, who was now in a fetal position holding her ears. Then Alice seemed to finally notice the situation Bella was in as she spoke calmly and softly to her. "Bella, I know it's hard, but you need to calm down. Just focus on my voice and block everything else out." Alice spoke. It took a while, but Bella finally managed to stand up from her fetal position as she scanned the room to spot strangers, as well as people who she knew. When she did so, she noticed 3 different connections, one of Damon, one to a young man who was watching her every move, and lastly to Rosalie's stomach, which she managed to figure out how to be a baby. "I have a question for you. Did you ask him to bite you?" asked Ocean, pointing to the ground where the unconscious vampire was. "Yes," Bella answered after looking in the direction Ocean pointed to. Hearing the answer, Ocean smiled. Then he went on. "Did you do it for the foolish vampire who left you here under the foolish thought that it would be best for you?" asked Ocean. "Yes," Bella answered without hesitation, but her tone held no special feeling. "So how do you feel now knowing that you almost died? Would you do it again, risking your life to be with someone who left you?" Ocean asked. "No," she answered with no change in expression. "TCH, at least you aren't as foolish as I heard. Then again, if you were human still, I bet your answer would have been different. I look forward to seeing how being a werewolf changes your personality," said Ocean as he turned and left, clearly no longer entertained with what was happening. "Werewolf?" Bella asked. "Yes. Someone explained to her what happened while she was out and her power and what is expected of her. Since she's fine, I'm leaving. See you later, Billy and Sam," said Damon as he and Rosalie left the others to go back to what they were doing. While Damon and the others were at home, Edward was just now arrived at the Cullen residence. He was in better shape than before, as he entered the house, and Esme spotted him. "Edward, what happened to you?" she spoke. Her voice managed to alert the other members of the family in the house as they arrived to see the state of Edward. It's gone." Edward repeated this over and over again like a broken record. It seems whatever happened had finally broken Edward. If it was permanent or just temporary was to be seen. "What's gone?" Esme asked. "My bond with Bella is gone," said Edward. When the rest of the family heard this, they were shocked to hear this. A mate bond doesn't just disappear without warning or cause. The first thing that they all thought was that Bella was dead. After all, this was the only reason they knew of why a bond would disappear, all except Carlisle. He stood to the side and watched them all while he thought to himself if what he was thinking was possible, but after careful consideration, he knew Damon would be responsible for it. But he couldn't think of why Damon would turn Bella into a werewolf. Let's not jump to conclusions. There are more than one way for a bond to disappear, but even if we find out why, I'm certain that Damon would be involved in some way, said Carlisle. Let's not jump to conclusions. There are more than one way for a bond to disappear, but even if we find out why, I'm certain that Damon would be involved in some way, said Carlisle. Underscore. Damon. It's always Damon. I'll kill him for sure. Edward screamed. His outburst made it clear that Carlisle made a foolish choice in voicing his thoughts. His current appearance was nothing like it used to be. The handsome vampire was gone, replaced with a disheveled and broken man. His eyes were filled with a clear obsession, and it was clear who the target of this obsession was, standing hunched over, unable to stand straight because of the pain he experienced when the mate bond broke. His only arm was hanging freely to his side as his other shirt sleeve moves around empty. The venom running down his mouth and ears did nothing but make his appearance worse. Currently, Edward looked feral as the obsessive light in his eyes grew stronger until even killing intent could be felt from him. The little aura Edward had surged, becoming restless, and with his already injured body this just caused more pain, but it didn't show on his face as the obsession almost became corporal. His family could feel the obsession and anger coming off from Edward, and it made them feel uneasy. But it seemed even though Edward's mental condition was very bad, he still didn't run back to Forks thinking he could kill Damon. Instead, he stood rooted on the spot he was standing, and his hand slowly moved and stroked his empty sleeve that was moving freely on his side. This action seemed to have a big effect on Edward as he calmed down quickly. It seemed as though he remembered how easy it was for Damon to take one of his arms when he was at full power, and now he wasn't even close to the strength he had then. He knew all too well he stood no chance against Damon. Running back to Forks right now would only get him killed. As Edward stood thinking of what he could do to get his revenge, the other Cullens stood rooted in their spot as they watched Edward through extreme anger back to the calm he is now. Edward wasn't even aware of his family's presence anymore, as he was in deep thought. Many different plans were racing through his head right now, but in all of them, he only saw one end: his death, and it was anything but pleasant. Damon would go out of his way to make sure his death was painful for as long as he could. This fact Edward was sure about. And as these plans played out in his head, and he imagined himself dying in some very creative ways, Edward started to become depressed, and a single thought invaded his mind. Maybe I can't get my revenge. As this thought tried to root itself in his mind, Edward tried his best to stop it. But it was getting stronger. The feeling of being inferior appeared in his mind. It grew stronger, threatening to completely take over his mind, but it was then an idea came into his mind, shining brightly, dimming every other thought he had. And his thoughts could be summed up in two words: the Volturi. This was Edward's bright idea. The Volturi. Why didn't I think of this sooner? I could go to them and tell them about Damon and let them deal with him. Even if they can't kill him, it would be good for them to at least weaken him with injuries, so I can kill him myself, and in the odd chance they can, it would still provide me with an accurate level of his strength. Edward thinks to himself. Coming up with this idea, a smile appears on his face as he forces himself to stand straight up and turn and leave the Cullens' house without even acknowledging his family anymore. The rest of the family stood and watched him leave, disappearing into the snow, not knowing where he was going, as the thought of him going to the Volturi never crossed their minds. They still cared about Edward even after everything that has happened, but nobody moved to follow him or even ask where he was going. But it didn't matter. Even if they did go after Edward and ask him where he was going, he would just ignore them. He was currently focused on one goal and one goal only, and that was to kill Damon. No matter the price, Edward would be willing to pay it if it meant he would no longer have to share the world with Damon. Every second that passed and Damon was still alive irritated Edward to no end. It was just short of causing him physical harm. There is no doubt that if Edward met anyone with the name Damon, he would kill them just for sharing the name of the one he hated. Edwards was currently running through the snow, heading towards the Volturi. The consequences that would befall his fall because of his actions didn't matter to him. If it meant Damon died, his family was a small sacrifice. If it meant Damon died, his sanity was unwanted. If it meant Damon died, the world could, but for all Edward cared. All that mattered was that Damon died. Everything else was of little importance. The old Edward was long dead, and what was left in his place was just revenge taken physical form. A monster that would not stop until his revenge was complete, a monster that was created by extreme rage and madness. Maybe this monster might be able to cause some kind of damage to Damon, but to which degree would be up for question, because no matter how angry an ant gets with a human, the most it could do is cause some small momentary pain that would be forgotten in a matter of seconds and would cause little to no inconvenience to the human's life. The old Edward was long dead, and what was left in his place was just revenge taken physical form. A monster that would not stop until his revenge was complete, a monster that was created by extreme rage and madness. Maybe this monster might be able to cause some kind of damage to Damon, but to which degree would be up for question, because no matter how angry an ant gets with a human, the most it could do is cause some small momentary pain that would be forgotten in a matter of seconds and would cause little to no inconvenience to the human's life. Underscore If Damon had known what had happened with Edward, he would feel nothing except a little happiness at the fact that Edward was going to bring the Volturi to kill him. Currently in Forks, after Bella had completed her transformation and had some time to take in all the information that was given to her, she was currently in the forest, walking without a purpose, thinking over everything that had happened. After she had calmed down and looked back on the choices she made, the current Bella couldn't help but feel shame. At first, she was completely surprised at how she felt by looking back on what she had done. But after thinking about it, she felt that shame was the correct emotion to have towards her previous actions. The current Bella had already displayed deeper and more understanding thinking when compared to the idiot she was before. Everything about her had changed. The feeling she gave off became fierce and confident, and the fact she could look back on her actions and see how foolish they were said a lot. But it was only personality-wise she had changed. Physically, Bella had muscles and her eyes shined brightly, and she had even grown a couple of inches. Bella had accepted her change rather quickly, and even managed to control her powers in the hours that had passed with the help of Joey. But that was one thing she felt weird about, the bond between her and Joey. She could feel it, and she still had the memories of her time with Edward and the feeling that accompanied them. And even though she didn't feel that way about Edward now, she still felt the sudden change weird. She had never met Joey before today, and she already had the intense feeling she had with Edward with him. She didn't mind it really, but she wasn't going to be like she was in the past and let it consume her. Bella knew she had picked the chance to become a vampire and be with Edward, while there was a chance she would die, and she chose this not thinking about her father, and the current Bella found this as one of the main reasons for her current shame. She had let her love for Edward consume her and blocked out everything else, not seeing how some of his actions were uncaring and foolish. The fact that he could leave her here alone spoke volumes about how much he cared, and right now, she really didn't think it was much. Now she looked back on things, it was clear to her that he did what he wanted, never thinking about how it affected anyone else. If he had just turned her into a vampire the first time she asked, things wouldn't have developed as they had. But the current Bella was happy they did. She'd already decided to give Joey a chance and join Damon's pack. Back at Damon's house, the guys were currently sitting around a table drinking beer, while Rosalie was already asleep and the other girls were out tonight doing whatever girls do on a girls' night. So, Joey, you're the first one of us to get a mate, so cheers, said Kane. Is it really a cheers situation? I mean, if he didn't have a mate, how many women could he sleep with considering how long our life is going to be? Now he's stuck with one woman. If you ask me, he got the short end of the stick, says Ocean. I guess you're right, but not everyone is made for that kind of life. Maybe he's one of those that just want to settle down, says Kane. I'm right here. Stop talking as if I'm not, says Joey. Oh, sorry, says Ocean. But everyone present could tell he was anything But what about you, Damon? Are you cool with your current situation? Asked Ocean. Soon everyone's attention gathered on Damon. Taking a sip of his beer, Damon spoke. I am. When our bond was first formed, I really didn't want it. It felt like I was being forced or controlled into loving someone I didn't even know. But after we meet, it was completely different. I fell in love with Rosalie of my own accord, and I can't imagine my life without her now, said Damon. Ah, you are whipped, shouted Max. And the others burst out laughing. TCH, don't think I don't know that you go out every day looking for a female to mate with, but they all don't want you, says Damon. You bastard, you followed me, shouted Max. So it's true, asked Ocean. Seeing Max not answering the other could help but laugh at him. Ha ha ha, shut up all of you, shouted Max. But his shouting just made the others laugh even more. I can get any wolf I want. You're all just jealous, says Max. Ha 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 ha. The guys continued to laugh loudly, not knowing they had woken Rosalie. Upstairs, Rosalie was finally woken up from all the noise being made downstairs and was completely irritated as she shouted, still half asleep. You guys better be quiet before I come down there and make you. Now, the house was completely quiet. I really am enjoying this new life of mine, thinks Damon as he gets up and goes upstairs, leaving the guys alone. Now the house was completely quiet. I really am enjoying this new life of mine, thinks Damon as he gets up and goes upstairs, leaving the guys alone. After Edward left, the rest of the Cullen family went back to doing their own things. Even if they were worried about Edward, none of them left to go after him. It was clear at this point, if it wasn't before, their family was falling apart piece by piece. Of course, this could have been avoided if they had actually taken care of the root cause. But they did anything but that. It would seem as if they actually wanted their family to collapse. The rest of the Cullen family all knew their family would be completely broken apart soon, and they had all accepted this fact. No one tried to hold the family together anymore. They all knew it was pointless. For a family that has been together for decades, it took less than a year for them to be completely broken apart. Edward, on the other hand, had gotten a good distance away, and even if he didn't have the speed of a vampire anymore, he still covered ground quickly as he made his way to the Volturi. He stopped for nothing, completely focused on his current goal. Edward marched forward through the heavy snow. He walked, not fazed by the coldness. At all, he took steady steps one after the other. His body was still broken, barely held together, but this seemed like nothing to the current Edward. He kept his attention forward, not looking back. Not once did his mind waver. Not one did the Cullens pass through his mind. Damon. His mind was filled with Damon. Edward didn't know for sure that Damon had a hand in breaking his bond with Bella, but he took it as fact. He didn't know why Bella's bond was broken, but he was sure Damon did it to hurt him. He didn't know what would happen now that her bond was gone, and there was no supernatural connection between them. But he was sure Damon would make a move on her to make her his, even though he had Rosalie, and Bella would be unable to resist. If only he wasn't around, Things would be perfect, but don't worry, Bella, I will kill him and make things right. Then, we can be together forever. I'm sure you still love me even without our bond. After all, I'm your soulmate. Yes, yes, yes. Soulmate, we don't need a bond. Our love transcends that. I can feel your love for me still, and I'm sure you can feel mine. It was clear Edward had long since gone off the deep end, and in his current state of mind, he no longer was thinking clearly. His attitude towards Bella has gone straight to obsession. While Edward was going mad on his own, Damon had woken up and headed down to his basement to start his day by getting the information he needed from the vampire they had captured. Coming from his kitchen, cup of coffee in hand, Damon turned and headed straight to the basement door. Damon was in good mood, to be sure. If the humming and smile on his face were anything to go by, it would seem that he had a wonderful night last night as he opened the door to the basement and made his way down the stairs. Reaching the bottom of the stairs, Damon quickly dragged his left hand on the wall next to him, looking for the light switch. Click! The room immediately went from full darkness to light. Damon stood wearing what looked to be some baggy pants and a shirt as he took a sip of his coffee while looking around the room. The room was empty, except for a chair in the middle of the room. The walls were white, and the floor was covered in what looked to be blood, to be specific, fresh blood. Looking at the person tied up on the chair in the middle of the room, you could see his wrists were cut, slowly bleeding out as the blood spread out around him. This sight needed nothing to hamper Damon's mood as he took another sip of his coffee and stepped into the blood that was coating the floor. Step, step, step. Damon took his time, walking slowly, approaching the chair in the middle of the room as blood coated his feet and the lower parts of his baggy pants. As he occasionally took a sip of his coffee. It wasn't long after that he reached the chair, but Damon said nothing as he watched the tied-up vampire slowly bleed out. Damon stood drinking his coffee until the cup was empty. Then he did what was unexpected. Bam! With one swift motion of his hand, Damon smashed the cup against the vampire's head, completely breaking it. It's time to wake up. This little bit of blood loss can't kill you. After all, you're a big, tough vampire, said Damon. Ah! A low groan was released from the tied-up vampire as he slowly opened his eyes. It's good you are awake. It will be kind of embarrassing to have to go back upstairs for another cup to recreate this, said Damon. Who are you? Asked the tied-up vampire. Now, that's not important. Answer my questions, and maybe, just maybe, I'll think about killing you quickly. Now I want to know, what are you doing in Forks? Asked Damon. The vampire said nothing as he looked angrily at Damon. It seems you still have some energy left. I'm a gentleman, so I can't torture you. So I'll come back after you lose some more blood and your mouth is a little bit looser, said Damon as he walked away. As he looked at Damon walking away and going back up the stairs, the tied-up vampire said nothing, but kept looking at Damon hatefully. As he looked at Damon walking away and going back up the stairs, the tied-up vampire said nothing, but kept looking at Damon hatefully. Damon returned upstairs, still holding the handle of the broken cup. As he entered the kitchen, The rest of the pack, including Bella, had already gotten up and arrived in the kitchen, making their own breakfast. But as Damon entered, everyone's attention gathered on him as they looked at him weirdly. Damon noticed their stares but proceeded to throw the handle in his hands in the garbage, then takes another cup and pours another cup of coffee while the others stare at him. Seemingly having enough, Damon finally asked, "What's the matter? You guys have been staring at me weirdly since I entered the room," said Damon. No one answered. "You do know everyone in this house has super hearing, right?" asked Rosalie as she continued to drink her tea. "Of course I know. I turned most of them, didn't I?" asked Damon. "Then what you did in the basement was done knowing everyone could hear you?" asked Rosalie. "Shit, they heard I didn't think they would be awake, especially Max," thinks Damon as he sees Max in the corner trying and ultimately failing to hold back his laughter. Ha 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 ha. Unable to hold back his laughter anymore, Max laughed as he rolled around on the floor. But his laughter broke the tense atmosphere. What followed after was the laughter of everyone present, including Rosalie and Bella. Damon stood there, embarrassed at the current situation. He couldn't even think of anything that could divert their attention to something else. "I'm a gentleman, so I not torture you. I'll come back after you lose some more blood and your mouth is a bit looser," said Max in a mocking tone, repeating what Damon said to the tied-up vampire before he left. "Ha ha 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 ha. I bet he thought it sounded so cool when he said it too," said Max. In response, the others just laughed harder and harder. It was clear that they found the whole situation funny. "This bastard, he isn't going to let go of this anytime soon," thinks Damon. "T-Sich, you weren't supposed to hear that," says Damon. "So what? Is that supposed to make it better?" asked Max. "You're an ass. I'll remember this. Don't think I won't get you back." After saying this, Damon left, returning to the basement. Currently, his mood wasn't the best. His good mood had been ruined by Max and his antics. Damon was now standing in front of the tied-up vampire once again. Only this time, he had no intention of wasting his time. "Hey, just tell me what I want to know, and I'll kill you quickly." Damon received no response, but it didn't seem to bother him much as he went on to ask his first question. "I know I said questions, but I really only have one, so answer it quickly, because as you can see, I'm not in a good mood," said Damon. "What I want to know is simple and affects your master in no way, not positive or negative. All I want is to know how he was made," says Damon. He watched Damon. He knew his death was just a matter of time. Even if by some miracle he wasn't killed here, the chances of him staying alive after reporting to his master was 0. "I've already given up on life. I tell what you want or not. I'm dead anyway. The choices lead to the same fate. Painful or not, I'll end up dead." Hearing this, Damon responded with a shrug. "So what? You want me to not kill you? You should know that is not possible. No matter what you're going to die today, it could be peaceful or I could make it very painful. And trust me, you don't want me to do that. If I do, the only end is you begging for death as a release from the pain," says Damon as his eyes shined with malicious intent. "Fine, I'll talk." "Oh, that's simple. Truth be told, the vampires aren't loyal to him at all. We only follow him because there is no alternative. He is the most powerful being alive, so we can't run nor can we resist. All we can do is submit and hope to live long enough to enjoy our immortal life." "Aren't loyal? Doesn't he have some level of control over the ones he turned?" "Of course he does, but it matters not. Time has made him arrogant and foolish. He no longer uses the connection he has with us to keep us in check. He knows we have no choice but obey him. After all, the only alternative would be death. With a powerful hold, he is over the ones he directly turned. He couldn't care less if you carry thoughts of betraying him after all when he could kill you with but a thought from any distance. Would our thoughts matter to him?" "I guess not. But you said directly turned. Does it not apply to those not turned directly from him?" "It doesn't. The further the generation is from him, the less control he has over them. Those turned by him are considered the first generation, while those turned by us are the second, and so on. It stands to reason that his connection with the 7th generation will be far weaker than what he has with the 2nd. This decreases the power he has over them, but also increases the flaws they have, which is why vampires in the later generation sparkle in the sun and have other flaws." "Makes sense. What would happen if another original vampire appeared?" "That's impossible. The witches have long since gone into hiding or have been killed off. There is no longer any way to create another original vampire, he says with regret. But what if there was another? There isn't. What if there was? I said there isn't. Just indulge me. What if there was? Well, I guess it would. That's impossible. The witches have long since gone into hiding or have been killed off. There is no longer any way to create another original vampire, he says with regret. But what if there was another? There isn't. What if there was? I said there isn't. Just indulge me. What if there was? Well, I guess it would change everything. Change everything? Huh. That's a really interesting way you have in putting it. Well, I guess I could have said it would cause a bloodfest, but it didn't seem like what a gentleman would say. Tisich, I see even the captive as jokes. It seems I don't fear death anymore. Sigh, just tell me what you mean. I mean, it's simple, really. The vampires aren't loyal, but it doesn't mean they will be willing to go against their master. He has cemented his place as the strongest in the world in their minds over decades. Even if someone stronger came around, not all of the vampires would desert master. After all, the master can still kill us with a thought, and the only way to stop that is if another original somehow appears. And as I have said, that impossible as there are no longer any witches. So the vampires would be split, and it would be a war. That's the simplest way to describe it, but yes. Makes sense. So how many vampires has he turned himself? Last person he turned was a girl, about 70 years ago, and at that time there were already at least 300 first-generation vampires, so 301 in total. But if we're talking about the amount that would risk sure death, to fight him it drops to I would guess 250 could be more, but I say that's a safe number. What about if there was another factor at play? What would the numbers be? Depends on the factor, really. If the master was somehow injured, the number might spike, they might not. It depends on the thought of the vampires at that time, and I can't predict their thoughts. What about the factor being another original vampire? You are not letting go of this, are you? Saif. And this is a very strong if. If another original vampire was somehow able to appear, the best-case scenario I could see happening would be 3/4 of the army siding with a new original vampire, while the other hold out until things turn bad for them, or they're just too afraid to try to go against master. That's good to hear. That's more than enough. So, tell me how the original vampire came to be. Fine. It was a long, very long time ago. The witches had been the superior power in the world since witchcraft had come into existence. No one knew who or what exactly was the first to practice witchcraft, but it spread quickly throughout the world, and from the original clean and pure witchcraft, which was said to be created to cleanse and purify the world, while serving nature for this task, the witches who were first known as the Aura, guardians, were not reward, no increase in life, nothing. They worked for nothing, as they believed in what they were doing, cleaning the filth from the world that was created from the negative aura accumulated from humans themselves. This in itself was dangerous. The creatures created from the accumulation of the negative aura were powerful and couldn't be left unchecked. The only upside was that the creatures always appeared in the same place. So once the aura guardians finally had enough, it was easy for them to come up with a plan and execute it. They chose to abandon the task they had been doing since the beginning and chose to seal off the creation point where the creatures were created. With the amount of aura guardians available and the power they were able to wield by manipulating aura, they managed to seal off the space, forcing all the creatures created to be kept in this sealed space for all eternity. After the aura guardians betrayed the world itself, their powers took on a darker tone, and they were cursed by the aura itself. The formerly known aura guardians were now known as witches, cursed to seek out perfection in anything and have a shorter life than any human. With these two curses, the witches became what was known in legend, perfectionists who could find joy in nothing, as the first curse only allowed joy in face of perfection. But perfection is not real. And with the second curse, the witches lived at most 20 years. This led to them seeking a way to extend their life. And as this thought came into their head, it was accompanied by the thought, if we're going to extend our life, why not become immortal? And that thought is what led to the creation of the first vampire, the original vampire. So what happened next? After that, the witches worked hard through multiple generations until finally the method was created. It was crude and forceful, but by all means, it would work, but the witches wouldn't test it themselves, so they went out and grabbed a random youth who no one would miss, and this youth became the original vampire. So, it was just by chance the original vampire is who he is? Yep, but the story isn't done. Let's skip over the ritual and speak about after. After the ritual, the original vampire was successfully created, and the witches who made him were seriously drained due to the amount of aura used in his creation. But by picking this random boy off the streets is what led to the witches' downfall. Maybe if they had chosen any other youth, things wouldn't have happened as they did. I'm guessing he killed them. Of course, that was easy, but that wasn't all. That day was the start of a decade-long killing spree that would shape the supernatural world for years to come. Maybe if they had chosen any other youth, things wouldn't have happened as they did. I'm guessing he killed them. Of course, that was easy, but that wasn't all. That day was the start of a decade-long killing spree that would shape the supernatural world for years to come. Underscore The youth they randomly choose to become the original vampire had many issues of his own, including a very real feeling of inferiority when compared to anyone else. The original vampire transformation had already heightened his emotions and feelings, and as he felt he was now the strongest being in the world and inferior to no one, how could he let the veins that had the power to create beings that could match him live? This one thought was very dangerous, and once it entered his head, he couldn't get rid of it. The process of making him had already weakened the witches present, so all that was left was for him to kill them, and that is exactly what he did. But he didn't stop there. He went out of his way to kill all the people present in the village he lived in before, as they had known about his time before becoming what he considered perfection. So he killed off all the witches. But how did the werewolves come about then? They came about in the same way. It didn't take long for the witch community to realize that they were being hunted, and they wouldn't just wait for their deaths. But they also couldn't create another original vampire in fear that it would betray and start hunting them. So they came up with a simple but doable solution. They would use an animal instead of a human. Their train of thought was simple. They would form a contract with the animal before the ritual. Therefore, after it would be as powerful as the original vampire, but they would be able to control it. And all things considered, it was a good plan. But even though the master created from the ritual could match the original vampire, they didn't expect the beast to grow stronger in the full moon and be able to ignore their orders. It turned out they had used a wolf for the ritual, and even with all the planning, they could foresee that the ritual would have such side effects on a wolf. It was really nothing else but bad luck that they selected a wolf, or as if aura itself was against the witches by affecting the wolf in this way. The monster they created would lose control under the full moon and go out and attack people, and whoever was lucky enough to survive was left with a present in the form of power. Whether these people were happy with this gift or curse, they had no choice but to accept what was forced on them. Those who survived those attacks were the first true werewolves. It didn't take long for the two creations to meet and fight, and it was a very close one. In terms of strength, speed, and even reaction time, they were equal. But the beast didn't have the ability to think complex thoughts, and all its attacks were straightforward, giving the original vampire a chance to outsmart it and kill it. But he didn't come out of this clash undamaged. It's said that there was a deep claw mark on his chest from a strike from the beast that almost killed him. As one coven of witches managed to create a beast that could rival the original vampire, it would stand to reason another coven could as well. And with how many covens would be present in the world, at least one of their creations would be able to kill the original vampire. And it would be true if any other coven managed to succeed in doing the ritual. As days went by, the witches' connection to aura began to weaken, which hindered them in performing any of the tasks they would usually be able to do. The witches were now in a state of acceptance. They knew aura itself was breaking its connection to them and taking away the power it had given them, leaving them completely vulnerable in their time of need. It may not be obvious, but the aura of the world has its own consciousness. It can make its own decisions, and most dangerous of all, it can hold a grudge. And the action it took against the witches was clear proof of that. It was the second of 3 times that aura has ever directly moved against someone. After that, everything happened as one would expect. He killed all the witches he could find, and even the ones he couldn't kill were too weak to do anything to him, and wouldn't live long enough to matter anyway. His hunting of the witches took decades, during which he also created more and more vampires and solidified his place as the strongest in the world. The feeling of inferiority he first had was replaced with an overwhelming sense of pride and superiority, which lead to the contempt and total disregard he has for all life but his own. He went on to commit numerous mass killings, for the fun of it throughout the years, from forcing his followers to kill off entire villages and towns in fits of boredom. But he also didn't foresee that even though the aura of the world allowed his creation, he was but a tool to be used and disregarded, but he managed to defy his fate. Seeing the horrors committed from its inaction at the original vampire's creation and its inability to interfere in the world on large scale, aura itself decided to do what little it could do. Aura couldn't really do much directly, but it did what it could by degrading the mind of the original vampire. Degrading his mind? So he is currently not himself? Asked Damon. Seeing the horrors committed from its inaction at the original vampire's creation and its inability to interfere in the world on large scale, aura itself decided to do what little it could do. Aura couldn't really do much directly, but it did what it could by degrading the mind of the original vampire. Degrading his mind? So he is currently not himself? Asked Damon. You could say that it was his punishment. He is currently just a mindless beast waiting to be unleashed. Well, I guess he'll make his move when he feels like it, says Damon. Well, I've told you everything you wanted to know, so hurry up and kill me already. Oh, I nearly forgot about you. Thanks for all the info, by the way. Swoosh. Bam. Damon didn't hesitate, as he formed a fist and it connected to his hostage's head. Blood and brain matter splattered all over the room as the force behind Damon's strike blasted his head open. No matter how things develop, it seems like I'll end up meeting him soon anyway. After all, Rose will become another original vampire soon anyway. Turning around, Damon headed back upstairs, blood still dripping from his fist. As he steps foot upstairs, Damon is immediately questioned. What are we going to do? Asked Rosalie. Why didn't you get the location of his hideout? Asked Kane. Let's go kill them now, said Max. Guys, calm down. We aren't going to do anything right now. First of all, we are outnumbered severely. With such a disparity between numbers, even though I would be fine, some of you will surely die. We will wait for the baby to be born and Rose to become an original vampire. And when that happens, he will come to us and lose some of his army. So it will be much easier to kill him, says Damon. For now, let's enjoy the little peace we have. Bella, you need to go home and talk to your father. Even if you are ashamed to face him, the man deserves to know his daughter is all right. As for the rest of you, just do what you want, but make sure you train your gifts since there will be an opportunity to use them on a larger scale soon. 3 days later, Damon, his pack, and Alice and Jasper were currently making their way through the forest, wearing what looked to be baseball gear. Remind me again why we're doing this, said Crystal. It's about bonding as a pack, says Damon. Oh, sure it is. It has nothing to do with the fact that you lost a bet with Alice a while ago, says Max. Whatever. Fine, so I lost a bet with Alice. At least I can play baseball. What are you going to do? Grow opposable thumbs to hold a bat? Asks Damon in a sarcastic manner. Ha! Unable to hold back her laugh, Alice laughs as she tries to cover her mouth, but ultimately fails to muffle her laughter. The others, already accustomed to the banter between the two, just shakes their head. Huh. Let's make a bet then. Whoever wins can order the loser to do anything they want for the day, says Max. All right, we will be the captains, and whosever team wins will be able to lord it over the other's head, and order the loser to do what they want or a day, says Damon. Deal. Max agrees immediately. I pick Kane, says Damon as quickly as possible. Ouch, Damon says as he feels Rosalie pinch him on his side. I would pick you first, love, but you can't play, says Damon. Damn it, I pick Ocean, says Max. Why aren't I anyone's first pick? Asks Dallas with a pout. I pick Joey, says Damon. I pick Bella, says Max. You're as transparent as always. You're going to try to use her to throw him off his game, aren't you? Asks Damon. I have no such intention, says Max, but the smile on his face says otherwise. Fine, I pick Chris, says Damon. A few minutes later, the pack had reached an open area. Rosalie was the umpire as she sat in a fold-out chair watching as the two teams stood opposite each other. Damon, Kane, Joey, Chris, and Angela were all on one team, while the other team consisted of Max, Bella, Ocean, Crystal, Alice, and Jasper. Damon's team had one less member since Rosalie couldn't play, and they all agreed on this as it really wasn't a disadvantage for him. Remember, you have to keep your strength at only a little higher than a human. That goes for the rest of you as well, says Max as he looks at Damon. Yeah, just call a side, says Damon as he flips a coin. Heads, Max shouts as Damon catches back the coin and reveals that it's tails. Seems like my team gets to bat first, says Damon. The teams disperse as everyone gets into position. The first person who steps up to bat was Kane. Max's team spread out as he took the furthest position back. On the mound, the pitcher was Ocean. Looking at Kane standing in the batter's box and Jasper playing catcher, he decides to strike Kane out. Taking a big step, Ocean threw the ball as it shot forward straight down the middle. Kane, on the other hand, stood looking as the ball passed him, finding its place in Jasper's mitt. Bam! Strike one, announces Rosalie. Jasper throws back the ball to Ocean. Ha ha ha, seems like you couldn't see my pitch, says Ocean. Kane didn't respond. Bam! Strike two. Let's get this over with, says Ocean as he throws his third pitch. Kane, after letting the first two balls go past him, suddenly moves for the third pitch, as his bat connects perfectly with the ball. Bam! The ball was sent fly as Ocean stood silent as he watched the ball fly over his head. Ha 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 ha. Seems like you couldn't see my pitch, says Ocean. Kane didn't respond. Bam! Strike two. Let's get this over with, says Ocean as he throws his third pitch. Kane, after letting the first two balls go past him, suddenly moves for the third pitch, as his bat connects perfectly with the ball. Bam! The ball was sent fly as Ocean stood silent as he watched the ball fly over his head. Max wasted no time running after the ball as he jumped into the air, catching it in his mouth. 1 out. Kane walked off the field, standing next to the other members of his team as Chris went up to bat next. As Chris stood bat in hand, he stared down at Ocean as he tightens the grip on the bat. Good job, Kane, says Damon as he turns to Kane. It wasn't much. I was sure a child was pitching with how slow they were. It's just bad luck Max managed to catch it, says Kane. You're right. Ocean's pitch did look slow from over here. Maybe they should put Max to pitch instead. Maybe he could roll it on the ground faster. Ha ha ha. Damon's whole team started laughing. Max and Ocean could clearly hear the joking and condescending tone of their conversation, and it made the both of them angry. Ocean, pitch with full power, shouted Max. Didn't you remind Damon not to use our full power before the match? Asked Ocean. It doesn't matter since they say your pitching is slow, says Damon. Understood. While Damon and his pack were busy enjoying themselves playing baseball, Edward had finally reached the city in which the Volturi was based. He was wearing a long brown coat that covered his whole body, keeping him from being exposed to the sun. The coat was filthy, covered in mud and other substances, making him look haggard, but his eyes shined with the flames of revenge. As he walked the streets, the people avoided him like the plague. As he limped forward, he kept mumbling incoherently, making people believe him to be crazy. But Edward didn't care. He made his way slowly to the base of the Volturi and entered. As he advanced into the base, he was eventually stopped by a random member of the Volturi. "State your purpose." "My name is Edward Cullen. I've come to report some information to the leaders of the Volturi," says Edward. Edward knew that he would be able to meet the leader easily, as they had wanted him to join them long ago, and now he was here alone, they would welcome him. The Ranagard spoke. "Wait here," saying that he turned and entered the door behind him. It wasn't long after that he returned and welcomed Edward into the room. "The leaders of the Volturi have agreed to meet you." Edward slowly made his way into the room as he was met with 3 men. They had skins so white that it was almost translucent, comparable to an onion's skin. Dark red eyes, though cloudy or milky. They stood together, all wearing black and red coats. "Edward, it's a pleasure to see you, but it seems you are not in the best of states." Arrow spoke first. "That's why I'm here. I came to report the appearance of a werewolf," says Edward. "A werewolf? That shouldn't be possible. We hunted them to extinction long ago." "Is he the one that took your arm?" asked Arrow. "Yes." "MHM. So where's the rest of your coven?" "Are they dead?" asked Arrow. "No, they're still alive." "Oh, do they know about the supposed werewolf?" asked Arrow. "They do," answered Edward. "So why are they not here with you reporting this matter?" "We have known about the werewolf for some time, and they have refused to report it. I took an opportunity and left to come and report this matter to you." "Oh, Edward, you have just admitted to going against our rules with your coven. You should know what this means, right?" "Yes, I know what it means, but they have broken the rules knowing the circumstances," answered Edward. "There is something I don't understand. With only one werewolf, why couldn't your coven kill it?" asked Arrow. "He was very powerful. He took my arm, and we couldn't do anything to stop him, while the rest of the coven forgave him after the fact," says Edward. Hearing this, Arrow walked forward, nearing Edward. "We can't just believe everything you said, but it's a good thing we have a way to find out if what you said is true." It was clear what Arrow wanted to do. His ability was telepathy. He was able to read minds much deeper than Edward could, but it required physical contact. Arrow grabbed Edward's shoulder as he began to read his mind, but he didn't manage to get anything, as Edward's aura was still contaminated with demons. As soon as Arrows tried to enter Edward's body to read his mind, it was attacked by demons. Arrow was pushed out forcefully as he suffered some backlash. Arrow coughed up blood, and everyone present was surprised. Underscore Damon and his pack continued to play their games. The residents of Forks were startled by the loud noises, mistaking them for the sounds of thunder, as the sky was clouded. In the forest near the field where Damon and his pack were playing, Carlisle and what remained of his coven were approaching. They had returned to find out what really happened to Bella. But when they went to the home of Damon and found it empty, the sounds of the game invaded their ears, and they followed it to the forest. "It seems like we have some company," says Damon. Just great those idiots are back in town. I wonder what they want, says Max. They're most likely here to find out what happened to Bella, says Rosalie. I guess he told them a bond broke, says Damon. Most likely they think she is dead. They had returned to find out what really happened to Bella. But when they went to the home of Damon and found it empty, the sounds of the game invaded their ears, and they followed it to the forest. It seems like we have some company, says Damon. Just great those idiots are back in town. I wonder what they want, says Max. They are most likely here to find out what happened to Bella, says Rosalie. Guess he told them the bond broke, says Damon. Most likely they think she is dead. Underscore. The game came to a stop as they all waited for the Cullens to appear on the field. Damon wasn't really happy with the sudden intrusion, but the same could not be said about Max. As his team was currently losing, he saw this as a saving grace. It seems like the bet is off. Their sudden arrival will disrupt the flow of the game. It's best we call it off. If our bodies cool down, then we start playing again, we risk injury, says Max seriously while still staring at the spot the Cullens will appear from. Hearing Max, everyone present except Damon just pretended not to hear him, while Damon couldn't hold himself back. Sometimes I really wonder if I could have found a smarter wolf to transform. What injury? Everyone here has high-level regeneration, says Damon. Hearing this, Max still wasn't finished. So, because they have high regeneration, you put them in a game to get injured? I expected more from you. Max spoke dramatically and with righteousness. If the sky wasn't currently filled with dark clouds, there would be a light shining down to illuminate his figure. Max stood, his head held high as a tear ran down his furry face, when suddenly a beam of light shone down on him from the sky, as the sky started to clear up. Seeing this, everyone present was shocked. If they didn't know the personality of Max, knew what he was saying was for his own benefit, they would believe him immediately. Damon, though, went from shock to total anger in less time than it took for those present to blink. And when they realized the change in his expression, it was too late. "I'll write that look off your face, you cunt," Damon shouted as he sped forward, leaving no one time to react. As Max saw Damon's fist approaching his face, it was far too late for him to dodge. Bam! Max was flung back as he landed heavily on the ground. Of course, he wasn't injured as Damon didn't hit him with the intention of injuring him. But Max stayed on the ground, unmoving. At this point, the others just watched from the side, with no intention of interfering. "I knew you were wicked, but to hit your best friend that hard. You really are a..." Max didn't finish as his face contorted in pain. Cough, cough, cough. Max somehow managed to cough up a single drop of blood, adding to his dramatic act. Looking at Max's act, Damon could help but be surprised. All that fake coughing for one drop of blood? You couldn't make a Hollywood with that low level of acting, said Damon. "Aren't you going to get up? Or so I have to force you to?" asked Damon. But Max refused to answer. "Fine, you want to continue playing, I'll play with you, you dumb dog," thought Damon as he clenched his fist. If Max had known what Damon just called him, he would surely jump up from the ground, shedding his act, and started cursing Damon for calling him a dog. "I hope you aren't angry when I'm done with you," Damon said, and the change in the tone of his voice was immediately heard by Max as he wasted no time and rolled out the way. Boom! Damon's fist collided with the spot Max was in before, as the ground collapsed under the force of his punch. Max looked back at the damage caused by the attack, and instead of fear, he felt anger. "What are you trying to do?" If that attack had hit me, I would be injured, shouted Max. My bad. My hand slipped, causing me to use too much force, said Damon. Your hand slipped? Do you know how to mute sound right now? Asked Max as he jumped from the ground and jumped toward Damon. I think your little play has gone on long enough. Don't you both think so as well? Asked Rosalie in her normal voice. But Damon and Max immediately stopped what they were doing. Of course, we were finished anyway, they said in unison. Carlisle and his group had arrived at the field and were greeted by the pack lined up waiting for them. The Cullens looked at the group, and all of their eyes fell on one person, and that was Bella. From the way she carried herself to the smell she was giving off, they could tell she wasn't human anymore, and since she was with Damon, they could guess what she was now. Damon, it's good to see you again, said Carlisle, as he walked forward for a handshake. I've told you, Carlisle, your fake greetings just annoy me, responds Damon. So where's your son? I don't know, he felt the bond between him and Bella break, and he disappeared. We thought she was dead, says Carlisle. So instead of going to look for your son, you came to me. Carlisle, I'm touched, but I'm fine. His disappearance causes me no pain, says Damon in a joking manner. Why don't we just skip the small talk and get to why I'm here, says Carlisle. Please, go ahead. Why did you turn Bella into a werewolf? And did you do it knowing it would break their bond? Carlisle. Oh, why do you want to know when you can't do anything to change it? Asked Damon. Why did you turn Bella into a werewolf? And did you do it knowing it would break their bond? Carlisle. Oh, why do you want to know when you can't do anything to change it? Asked Damon. Understood. Did he force you, Bella? Carlisle turned and looked at Bella while asking her this question. Ah ha 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 ha. Everyone present laughed at the question, while Carlisle and the other Cullens stood still looking at them seriously. Guys, stop laughing. I think they're serious, says Damon. So what if they are serious? We could kill them as easily as stepping on an ant. As a matter of fact, I think we should kill them. Their attitude since they arrived hasn't been very respectful. I agree. It seems that they came with the intention of starting trouble. Damon, let's play a hunting game. They're the prey. Whoever kills the most wins, says Max. That sounds fun, but I think we should hear what they have to say first, and maybe Bella will want to talk to them first, says Damon. As the Cullens hear their conversation, the previous expression on their faces changes to one of complete shock and fear. They were completely aware of the difference in strength between them and Damon, and even though they didn't know how strong the others were, they were completely outnumbered. Damon, we were just asking. We didn't mean to offend you. So could you ask your pack to calm down? Asked Carlisle. Hearing this, Damon turned around and faced Carlisle again. No can do. You see, when you came here talking like that, you already pissed me off. The only reason I haven't taken action yet is that Bella would likely want to talk to you, and I still need you alive to deliver my child, says Damon. I know that very well, Damon, and it's exactly for that reason you won't kill me or my family, says Carlisle. Hearing this, the rest of the pack took on a very cold expression as they looked at the Cullens, their killing intent clear to feel. Damon stood there stunned. What Carlisle had completely shacked him, As Damon finally got back to his senses, he felt the killing intent coming from his pack and was surprised. Even Jasper and Alice had angry expressions on their faces, while the Cullens that came with Carlisle were clearly surprised by what he said. "Carlisle, it seems the disappearance of your son has made you crazy if you dare talk to me like that, even going as far as to threaten my unborn child," says Damon. Carlisle stood rooted to his spot. It seems he had realized what he said. "I am." As Carlisle was about to say something, Rosalie's cold voice entered everyone's ears. "Carlisle, it seems you overestimate your worth. Even if you're the best choice currently to deliver our child, I would kill myself if you threaten our child again. It is very easy to turn a doctor and have them deliver the baby for us after they join the pack," says Rosalie as she steps forward. "So I would advise you to become reacquainted with the value you hold. You're not untouchable. You're easily replaceable," says Rosalie. Clearly, she was very upset with the things Carlisle had said, as she was now standing next to Damon. "I think we should just kill him now. We can't control him completely. It's better to have someone who can't hurt the baby deliver it," says Max. "We agree also." The other members added their thoughts. Hearing them, Damon had started thinking about it. "Maybe they are right. I don't really trust Carlisle. But turning a doctor just to deliver our daughter seems really selfish. Taking them out of their normal life forceful. It isn't something I want to do, but if this feeling doesn't disappear, it might be the best thing to do." "Thanks, Damon. We will talk about this later," says Damon, responding to his pack. "Damon, that was a mistake. I'm just a bit on edge because of Edward leaving. Don't take what was said to heart," says Carlisle. "It's far too late for that, Carlisle. Words have already been spoken. It can't be taken back," says Damon. "Bella, you go and talk to Carlisle. We will be leaving," says Damon. After saying that, Damon and his pack left, leaving Bella and Joey with the Cullens. "It's all right. You can go. They won't do anything," says Bella, looking at Joey. I won't be far. If they do anything, I'll kill them," says Joey as he turned and disappeared. Understood. As Damon and the others returned home, everyone still wasn't very happy. Their day out was ruined by the arrival of the Cullens. "All right, guys, you better get ready. Soon there will be a fight with the Volturi. If I'm not wrong, that idiot Edward should have gone to the Volturi," says Damon. "A fight? That's great. I can't wait to kill some vampires," says Max. "Edward went to the Volturi?" asked Alice. "Well, I think so, and they will surely come after us. But they aren't a big deal. We will just kill them, then kill the original vampire. Then we can live in peace," says Damon. "What about Carlisle and the others?" asked Jasper. "Well, the Volturi should come for them too. If they die or live is up to them, since their son sold them out himself," says Damon. "Things are getting very entertaining," says Kane. Underscore. Back with Bella and the Cullens, they were standing watching each other intently. "So did he forcefully turn you, Bella?" asked Carlisle. Bella stood there looking at Carlisle. She had some complicated feelings about this man, but she still answered him. "Damon didn't forcefully turn me. He saved my life when he didn't need to. Showed me the truth," says Bella. Faced with this answer from Bella Carlyle, stood there. He didn't know what to say. He didn't completely believe what Bella said, but he was unable to get any other answer. Damon didn't forcefully turn me. He saved my life when he didn't need to, showed me the truth, says Bella. Faced with this answer from Bella Carlyle, stood there. He didn't know what to say. He didn't completely believe what Bella said, but he was unable to get any other answer. Sai, what about that boy who was with you just now? Who is he? Asked Carlyle. He's a part of Damon's pack, answered Bella with no change in her facial expression. I'm sure that isn't all. Your bond with Edward has been broken, and he thinks you're dead. Don't you think you should at least let him know you aren't? Asked Carlyle. It doesn't matter if I let him know that I'm alive or not. As a matter of fact, things are better this way, says Bella. Better this way? Bella, I'm disappointed. When did you become so cold and uncaring? Asked Carlyle. Uncaring, if that's how you see it. Then it's fine, I don't care. I have people who know the real me, so your opinions don't really matter, says Bella. Hearing this, Carlyle was really shocked. This was not the response he expected at all. It seems Bella really had changed. Bella, Edward is in a lot of pain right now after the bond was broken. If he knew you were alive, it would lessen his pain. Bella, I'm asking you, please. Edward is in so much pain he might do something foolish like killing himself, says Carlyle in a pleading voice. Hearing this, there was a brief crack in Bella's cold expression, but recovered quickly. Mr. Cullen, I'm alive, I have a new mate. My feeling for Edward have dissipated, leaving nothing behind. If he knew this, wouldn't it just ensure he did something foolish like killing himself? At least once he doesn't know I have someone else, it would reduce the chances of him doing so, says Bella. Hearing this, Carlyle and the others were very surprised. Bella actually had someone else already. Wasn't it less than a month ago that she was deeply in love with Edward? How could her feeling change this quickly? As a matter of fact, if you guys are really worried about Edward, shouldn't you be looking for Edward, making sure he doesn't do anything foolish like killing himself? I think you guys are happy that he's gone. Did you even try to look for him? Asked Bella. What Bella said was very ruthless, but it hit the nail right on its head. Even if they didn't say anything, the Cullens blamed Edward for their current predicament, their family broken, and there was no way to fix this. But even after being called out, they wouldn't come right out and say this. Bella saying this just made them angry. Boom! A loud sound echoed in the surrounding area as a sudden pressure of wind forces those present to take a step back, and soon after another loud sound echoed. Boom! Now Bella and the Cullens were covered by a dust cloud as they upped their guard, even though they were completely terrified. Whoosh! Once again the wind picked up and blew away the dust, granting back everyone present their sight. But someone was missing, and someone who wasn't there before was there now. Carlyle was gone, and in his spot stood Joey, with a clearly angry expression on his face. Why are you still here? I told you I would be fine, says Bella looking at the angry Joey. Doesn't look like it. If I wasn't around, it looks like you would have been taken advantage of. With how angry he was getting there, no telling what he would have done. It's best to let him cool off, says Joey. Sigh. The Cullens, who were on guard, turned to look in the direction Joey was looking in and saw a trail of destroyed trees. Without any hesitation, they immediately ran in that direction, looking for Carlyle. Let's go. It's clear your conversation isn't finished yet, says Joey as he and Bella run in that direction also. As the Cullen arrive at the end of the trail, they found Carlyle embedded in a huge stone, cracks all over his body as he was barely able to move. Soon after, Joey and Bella also arrived. That's just a warning. It's best you be careful and learn to control that temper you have, says Joey. Carlisle couldn't respond, but he was very upset at the situation. Even with his great self-control, he still got angry at Bella's words. They had cut deep, exposing the truth that he desperately didn't want to face. As Joey was talking, Esme had already made her way to her husband's side. She was clearly worried about him. Cough, cough. Maybe you were right, Bella. Maybe we were indeed happy he left, and just couldn't face this fact, says Carlisle. Don't talk. You aren't in a good condition, says Esme. Mr. Cullen, I appreciate how nice you had been to me before, but from this moment, let's have nothing to do with each other. I think that would be for the best, says Bella. I respect your wish. This will be goodbye, says Carlisle. MHM, have a good life, says Bella. After that, she and Joey left the area and headed back to the house, leaving the Cullens alone. What are we going to do now? Asked Esme. All in favor of searching for Edward, raise your hand, says Carlisle. No one moved. It seems their true thoughts were finally reaching the surface. All in favor of staying in Fork and living peaceful and leaving Edward on his own? Asked Carlisle. Understood. What Carlisle didn't know was it mattered not what choice they made. They would meet Edward again, and when they did, it would be an all-out fight for their survival, where they would have to turn to the most unlikely person to survive. After all, Edward had long since decided to rat them out to the Volturi and had already followed through with his thoughts. What Carlisle didn't know was it mattered not what choice they made. They would meet Edward again, and when they did, it would be an all-out fight for their survival, where they would have to turn to the most unlikely person to survive. After all, Edward had long since decided to rat them out to the Volturi and had already followed through with his thoughts. Damn it, 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 damn it. A voice shouted, filled with rage and sadness. They're all dead. How could they? How could they? How could they? How could they? The same voice shouted. The rage and sadness have become stronger as a woman could be seen behind a tree with black liquid streaming down her face, and her exposed hand were filled with cracks. This was definitely not a human woman, but a vampire. This Tanya, the leader of the Denali coven, consisting of Kate, Eliezer, Carmen, and Garrett, who were at this moment already dead. The attack was swift and ruthless, leaving them no chance to retaliate, as even their supposed ally in Edward was a part of the group that destroyed her family. The only reason she is alive right now is that she wasn't there when they attacked and only returned after, but the murderers hadn't left yet, exposing their identity to her. Tanya was overcome with anger and sadness, but she was somehow still able to see the situation clearly. The moment they were alerted of her presence, she ran, and ran with all her might, but they followed her. Through some kind of blessing, Tanya was able to lose the vampires following her enough to have a moment to let her sadness overwhelm her. The reason didn't matter. She was sure her family did nothing to deserve this. Then her thoughts went to Edward. He was standing looking at the dead body on the ground, no emotion on his face. And from the conversation she had heard before she ran, Edward wasn't being forced. He had betrayed the other Cullens. This shocked her, but it also gave her a reason to run. Carlisle was very close to her, and she didn't want them to die, and she knew for sure that is what would happen if they got to Forks before her. Having decided she had been sad enough, for now, Tanya sped off once again in the direction of Forks. Back in Forks, the Cullens had gone back to living in their house, spending their time however they wanted. Things weren't what they used to be. The family wasn't as happy as they were before. Bella had exposed them for what they really felt. Now they couldn't deny it and could only live with it. But Edward could only blame himself for this. If anything, the Cullens had backed him up longer than they needed, and because of that their family was in pieces. Maybe the members of the family haven't reached the point of hating him to the bone, but the chances of them ever accepting him again were very low. Over the past few days that the Cullens had returned, Esme had made many attempts at talking to both Alice and Jasper, who had joined Damon's pack. Through many failed attempts at bringing them back, Esme eventually just had to accept the fact her beautiful family was never coming back together. Damon, on the other hand, was currently relaxing by the pool with his family. Laughter could be heard everywhere, and everyone was getting along. Even Bella was in the pool swimming with Joey. As Damon looked on, he couldn't help but smile. He liked to see the members of his family getting along and enjoying themselves. He only hoped this could last forever. Master, she got away. The kneeling vampire said to the other vampire, standing dressed in robes next to Edward. Jane, it seems our plans to launch a surprise attack have failed, says Edward. And Mitchum, it changes nothing, surprise attack or not, they will die. After all, you said Alice isn't with them anymore, right? Asked Jane. Yes, she isn't with them anymore, answered Edward. That's good. Remember, your life is on the line as well. If anything isn't as you say, then your head will be separated from your body, says Jane with killing intent obvious as could be. The Volturi didn't trust Edward even a bit, but the things he had brought to their attention, coupled with the fact they had been waiting for a reason to destroy the Cullens, made the leader decide to go ahead with this plan and destroy them. The Volturi had always wanted to have both Edward and Bella to join them at the Volturi, as they had taken an interest in their powers. But for the sake of keeping the image that they put forward as being the neutral judge that presides over all vampires to keep order, they couldn't destroy the Cullens without a reason. Because the same way the Volturi was waiting for an opportunity to destroy the Cullens, there were many covens that are also looking for the correct reason and cause to unite the vampire covens and destroy the Volturi. This was one of, if not the main reasons, the Volturi wanted Alice to join them, as she would be able to warn them as these decisions were made by seeing the future. And now it seems like their dream was about to come true, as they planned to get Alice by will or force this time around. Currently, to ensure their plan worked, there were two teams that were dispatched. The first team was going after the Cullens, while the second head straight to Fork to deal with Damon and his pack. Each team had one of the Volturi's main weapons in being the twins, whose power was to an illusion of pain on a target, stripping them of their ability to fight back, making them easy to kill. In the team going after Damon's pack, the notable members would be Arrow and Alec. They were accompanied by 8 vampires as their numbers increased, as they created newborns along the way, while keeping them in control through Alec's ability and Arrow's to read their minds and find out their weak point, such as family members. The team that had been tasked with killing the Cullens included Jane and Felix along 5 more vampires. They had not increased their numbers by using newborns for the simple fact that they knew it wasn't needed to kill the Cullens, and Jane's ability couldn't work on more than one target at a time, making her unable to control the newborns the way her brother could. These two teams, when looking at their number and abilities, would make any vampire coven afraid and unable to fight back. But in the face of either Damon or any member of his pack, this lineup was nothing more than a bad warm-up for the main course. All right, gather up. We will set off for Forks now the Cullens are already there and would be informed of our intentions, but it doesn't matter. They have broken the rules, and they will pay the price, says Felix. Hearing this, the remaining vampires gathered, and they set off at their highest speed. Underscore. In Forks. Currently, in Damon's house, the members of his pack were gathered around a table eating breakfast. Even Jasper and Alice were present, even though they couldn't eat. Max was also in his seat, stuffing his face with anything that was in reach. The happy atmosphere was enticing, but then suddenly, bam! The glass in Alice's hand that contained blood dropped as her body stiffened, and everyone who knew what this meant turned and focused on Alice. It took a while, but Alice finally came through and the vision was done. But the look on her face made the rest of the room tense. She looked downright horrified as her body began to tremble. "Alice, what's wrong? What did you see?" asked Jasper as he wrapped his arms around her. "They're coming, and they have an army full of newborns," says Alice. "You mean the Volturi?" asked Jasper. "Yes," Alice answered. "That's it?" asked Damon, but the tone of voice said it all. He was disappointed. "Yes," answered Alice. "It's just a group of stupid vampires. Not even ones turned by the original. What's there to be afraid of?" Damon stated. "Yeah, it's just some vampires. I was waiting to kill some vampires. Since they are delivering themselves to us, we will gladly use them as some warm-up," says Kane. Alice and Jasper just watched as the others just nodded to his statement, agreeing with what he said. Clearly, they were the only ones that were worried. After this, everyone went back to eating, and the atmosphere returned to normal. The only difference was the increased excitement and lingering bloodlust. Underscore. A day had passed, and the Cullens were living the same as before. Sadness overwhelmed them as they just lived day by day, unable to do anything they found joy in anymore. But little did they know their sadness would reach new depths even deeper than they ever thought possible. As the day passed, the Cullens stayed at home another day. But as the clock struck 12 today, all members in the house were alarmed as they caught the scent of a vampire. But soon they realized the scent was familiar as they gathered at the door of the house to welcome their guest. But as they opened the door, the sight they saw shocked them. Their friend, some might even say a family member, was in a horrible state. It was clear she had been attacked and barely survived. And now they were worried about her as she fainted. While Damon and his pack weren't worried about the approaching army heading to deal with them. The same couldn't be said for the Cullens, who had just found out what had happened to their friend. Flashback. Tanya had fainted after arriving at the Cullen house. And being friends, or family as they would say with Tanya, they brought her inside and made sure she was all right. They were clearly worried about her. As they waited, they guessed what could have happened to bring Tanya to them in this condition and the status of her pack. Tanya's coven wouldn't let this happen to her, and the fact she had arrived here by herself without them had already given them the answer to their question. They knew Tanya wouldn't abandon her family and run by herself. So it could mean that her family was already dead, and she had escaped to either ask for their help in getting her revenge or come to warn them. To everyone present watching over Tanya, they already knew what option was the most likely. It seems the Volturi has attacked her coven. The question is why, says Carlyle. Why have you jumped straight to the Volturi? Asked Esme. It's simple. Other than Damon, there is no one that can deal with them and reduce Tanya to this state. And the fact that she came to find us, I'm guessing the people responsible for this will be coming for us as well, says Carlyle. Even if it's the Volturi, that would need a reason to go after the two of our covens. And as far as I know, they don't have one, says Emmett. You're wrong. So far we have done 3 things that the Volturi could use to make a move against us. The first is the fact we currently have a pact with the shapeshifters when we were supposed to report them as soon as we found out about them, and didn't. The second is simple. Bella. We exposed the existence of vampires to humans. And lastly is the fact that Damon, a werewolf, has been in contact with us and already has a pack of other werewolves, and we have yet to report this matter to the Volturi. Any of these reasons would give the Volturi enough reason to act against us, says Carlyle. I agree. But they have no way of knowing that we have done any of this. Alice and Jasper are with Damon, and Tanya and her coven wouldn't sell us out. So it has to be something else, says Emmett. What about Damon? Asked Edith. What about Damon? Couldn't he have done something to alert the Volturi about the things we have done? He could have, but what reason does he have to do that? The moment we become something that he can't stand to look at anymore, he could kill us easily. There is no reason for him to go about getting rid of us in such a roundabout manner, says Carlyle. It seems we are still missing the most reasonable answer to our questions, says Emmett, gaining everyone's attention. Getting everyone's attention, Emmett spoke. We are still missing one member of this family besides Rosalie, Alice, and Jasper, and the last time we saw said member, he was completely consumed by hate and anger, says Emmett. There wasn't need to call names. Everyone present knew who he was talking about. In fact, they had all thought it, but it seemed Emmett had the most courage to say it. And no, he had said it. It consumed the thoughts of the others. Even though they had talked about abandoning Edward, they would have never thought that Edward would have already sold them out in the search for revenge. The room was silent, and the mood became even more depressing. They now had to accept the fact that the person they once called family might now be working to kill them, completely disregarding their previous relationship. Even though they want to leave Edward to his own devices, they would never go out of their way to hurt him, and they expected the same from him, but it seems that their thoughts were foolish. The truth of the matter is that Carlyle and the others should have already noticed this. Edward, who was consumed by revenge, had no such thing as family or attachments. After all, there was no need for such things. A man who has given his entire self to the pursuit of his revenge sees nothing but that anything is possible and they are capable of anything, from committing mass murder to killing loved ones like they were strangers. This is the path Edward has chosen and must continue to walk until either he or Damon is dead. Edward may have already known the outcome of his attempt at revenge, but it didn't matter. The logic had been buried deep under the hatred and anger stopping him from using it to make a logical decision and give up on his futile attempt. While Carlyle and the Cullens were trying to accept the reality in front of them, back at the house of Damon and Rosalie, the pack members were once again gathered together to discuss something. I have no idea why this is even an issue. I am the second in command, so it's only natural that I become the baby's guard, says Max. But you're a dog, what if she catches something from you? Asks Kane. You idiot, I'm not a dog. And I'm very clean, and let's not forget that I'm stronger than all of you, says Max. Yes, the matter being discussed was who was to guard the baby once he or she was born. As time went on, the connection and loyalty they felt towards the unborn baby was growing as the baby grew, so they all wanted to make sure the baby was well protected once he or she was born. But with an original vampire as a mother and the strongest werewolf as her father and a family of very powerful werewolves who were loyal to him or her, this baby would be well protected no matter what, and that's when the baby's eventual awesome strength wasn't taken into consideration. But with an original vampire as a mother and the strongest werewolf as her father and a family of very powerful werewolves who were loyal to him or her, this baby would be well protected no matter what, and that's when the baby's eventual awesome strength wasn't taken into consideration. So if they really thought things through, the baby wouldn't need a bodyguard, as Damon would be sure to clean up all the treats before she was born. But this didn't seem to matter to the group as they continued to argue. Cullens. At the Cullens, they were still shaken at the thought of Edward betraying them, but Tanya was now waking, so their attention gathered on her. After all, she would have the answers to their questions. As they watched the now twitching eyelids of Tanya, the Cullens' mood managed to brighten a bit. At least their friend was fine, so the thoughts of Edward were pushed to the back of their minds for now as they focused on Tanya. POV. Everything has to be a dream. Please let it be a dream. They're all dead, killed right before my eyes, and all I could do was run and hope that someday I would be able to get revenge for them. Those bastards at the Volturi have gone too far, killing everyone precious to me. But they aren't the only ones. The Cullens have brought all their troubles to my doorstep and left it for my coven to bear the consequences. How could I allow this to be? Their deaths weren't peaceful, and neither would the deaths of those who killed them when they suffer for my revenge. And as for Edward, that bastard will suffer more than any before. That scum actually helped kill them and felt nothing. If I don't kill them all, I will never forgive myself. Chaotic thoughts swirl through Tanya's mind as she begins to regain consciousness. Tanya herself looked much better than she did before, and the cracks on her skin had healed, and she had returned to her previous beauty. But as she opened her eyes, there was a look of confusion as she looked at the unknown roof. But as quick as the look of confusion appeared, it was replaced with one of sadness and rage as she saw Carlyle. She immediately realized everything she hoped was a dream was in fact real. Her whole family was gone, and the one who was to blame was Edward. "Tanya, how are you feeling?" asked Carlyle as he saw Tanya's eyes open. Hearing this question, Tanya wanted to rip Carlyle's head off his body. What did he mean how she was feeling? What a stupid question, but since he wanted to know, she would tell him. "How do I feel? What kind of foolish question is that? But since you asked, I'll tell you, I feel like anyone would feel if their entire family was killed before their eyes, and all they could do was escape and do nothing at that time to get revenge. I feel complete and utterly useless. Not only was I only able to run, but I came to ask the people whose family member is responsible for the death of mine for help. So right now, I feel like ripping each and every one of your heads from your body and letting you join my dead family." Say Tanya, each and every one of her world laced with hatred and malice. But no matter how upset she was, Tanya had excellent self-control and wouldn't act on her thoughts for now. After all, she knew she needed the Cullens if she wanted any chance at revenge. While Tanya had finished speaking and was holding herself back, the Cullens were taking in what she said. Tanya had just answered all their questions before they could even ask them. Their friends were dead, and Edward had indeed betrayed them, even though the information was a lot to take in all at once. But what other choice did they have currently? Since Edward had betrayed them, it meant he went looking for them and didn't find them as they had already left, so they dealt with Tanya's coven. But now they would for sure know where to look next and would be coming to Forks, and they shouldn't be too far behind Tanya and should be closing in as they speak. Carlisle had already thought of this and spoke quickly. Everyone, we are leaving here now. The Volturi shouldn't be too far off from reaching Forks, so we won't be able to outrun them. Our best chance of survival now is only one person, and that's Damon, says Carlisle. Everyone present was shocked by this sudden decision, but now wasn't the time to question things, and they all knew Damon would provide them with a higher chance of survival. But the problem was, would Damon allow them to stay there after they told him the truth of the matter? Would he leave them to fend for themselves? The last you told me, you don't have a good relationship with this Damon. Will he really let you stay with him? Asked Tanya. Hearing her question, everyone looked at her. Since her little rant, everyone had chosen to ignore her, seeing how upset she was and the guilt they felt toward what happened. But hearing her asking this question, Carlisle answered, I don't know, but it's the best choice we have. So let's go. We don't have the time to be standing here talking when the Volturi could be closing in, says Carlisle. Underscore As the Cullens quickly left their home and sped towards Damon's house, they had no idea how lucky they were to make such a quick and smart decision. As they left in the forest, not too far away from the Cullen house, to a vampire, multiple shadows sped towards the location of the Cullens' now empty house. One of these fast shadows was moving much slower than the others, as it was clear to see with the human eye. It was Edward, struggling along to kill the members of his former family. When the team of Volturi members and Edward arrived at the Cullen residence, they immediately charged in, but as they searched, they found an empty house. Seeing this, it wouldn't take a genius to figure out what happened. They had escaped, but their scent was still present and strong. They're gone. Even if they smelled us, they shouldn't have run away. After all, they don't know we know what they did. It would seem as if they were tipped off to our intentions and left a couple of minutes before we arrived, says Jane as she glances at Edward. Of course, he felt it and knew what she was thinking, and he hurriedly said, Jane, it wasn't me. Have you forgotten that Tanya escaped? If I'm not mistaken, she must have come to warn them and was successful. Jane continued to stare at Edward intently. She did trust him at all. You're lucky I can pick you her scent among them, otherwise I'd rip your head from your body, Jane says with completely no change in her facial expression. She warned them, so they must be leaving, but from the direction their scent is heading, it appears to be going in the opposite direction. Jane thinks to herself, do you think they are heading to warn this Damon person? Asked Felix. It's possible, but he did say their relationship wasn't that great, so I don't see why he would warn them instead of escaping directly, said Jane while pointing towards Edward. That's true. What do you think, Edward? Felix asked. They should be going to warn him, even though their relationship isn't great. Alice and Rosalie are with him. But even though Alice should have had a vision of you and the other team already, they shouldn't have left. Based on his personality, he would wait thinking he could kill you all, says Edward. With his strength, there is a high possibility of that happening, but we should be able to overwhelm him with numbers. Most likely Carlisle has gone to seek refuge knowing he can't outrun us, thinks Edward. Foolish thinking, but it works out for us. Let's go, says Felix. says Jane as they set off following the Cullens' scent. As they set off, as Edward was the slowest, no one noticed the ugly expression on his face, filled with unwillingness as he squeezed his only remaining fist. This wasn't what I had planned. Where the hell are the members of the Quileute tribe? I had no intention of facing off against them directly yet, screams Edward in his mind as he set off following them. Underscore. Taking into account that Edward had also told the Volturi about the shapeshifter tribe, the Volturi should be advancing much more carefully, or maybe not interfork at all, knowing 3 enemy groups were present. But like most who have held power for a long time, they have become arrogant, thinking no one could threaten them, and that will lead to their downfall. Because as the Volturi entered Forks and moved towards the Cullens' home, Edward had given them the route that lead through the lands of the shapeshifters. This time the Volturi main targets were the Cullens and Damon. The shapeshifters were an afterthought, something that could be killed off after dealing with the other 2. Edward hoped the shapeshifters would catch their scent after they had already reached the Cullen house, and he would leave the Volturi to their deaths as he escaped to watch the battle between the other team and Damon. But what Edward didn't know was the shapeshifters already knew they were coming before they arrived, and the only reason they passed through their land without any problems was that Damon asked them to let the Volturi through unhindered. So before his plan could begin, and without even knowing he was doing it, Damon had ruined his plans. Currently, even though Edward was only focused on revenge, deep down he knew he couldn't have. He was still thinking about the right way to do it, and as he didn't know the extent of Damon's strength, his plan from the very start was to use the Volturi to test his strength while he watched from a safe distance, being able to escape at any time. But now, even though he was lagging behind, and it looked like this would be a perfect opportunity to separate from the group, he knew there were at least 3 different pairs of eyes watching him at all times, even though they were ahead of him, and the moment he tired, it would spell his end. As Edward ran through the forest, many thoughts entered his mind, as though of many ways to separate from the Volturi. Things aren't going as I planned at all. As this thought appeared in Edward's mind, he could help but become even angrier. But it was useless. Anger wouldn't change anything. Things had already happened. He could only try his best to survive from now on and get his revenge. Underscore. With Damon and his pack, they were spending the day like any other day, relaxing around the pool and enjoying themselves. No one would think these people were about to be attacked by an army of vampires, and they knew about it. When are they going to arrive? I'm ready to fight already, complained Ocean. It should be too long now. We already caught their scent when they entered the town, but it seems we will have some other guests before them, says Damon. You mean the Cullens who are heading towards us? Asked Max. It seems they're a target of this little attack as well. If I had to guess, I'd say they want to seek protection, says Damon. Hearing this, everyone was quiet. So should we help them? Asked Kane. MHM, it's up to you guys. More enemies should be coming with them. If you want to fight them, fight them. If not, well, that's your choice, says Damon. But everyone understood what he meant. As Damon and his pack continued to wait for their approaching enemies and the Cullens, they had changed how they were currently standing. Of course, Damon stood in front of everyone, even though he had no intention of making a move. Behind him, his pack stood around Rosalie, keeping her protected in case of any attacks. It wasn't long after that there was movement coming from the house, as they stood waiting for the Cullens to appear before them. It seems you're in a bad way, Carlisle. I wonder who could have tipped off the Volturi, says Damon as the Cullens arrived before him. Carlisle, on the other hand, upon hearing Damon's question, couldn't help but sigh. Damon, now isn't the time for this. I came to ask for your help this time, says Carlisle. I know. And I won't chase you away, but I won't protect you either if you live or die is completely based on your actions, says Damon. Thank you, Carlisle said. Honestly, that was more than I was expecting him to do, and it was far easier than I thought I would be. No convincing nothing, thinks Carlisle as he takes the other over to Damon's side. And as soon as they moved, there was another set of movement in the house. But this thing, it was clear, it was far more people than before, and they weren't being careful if the sound-broken things were anything to go by. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Figures sped about in the house before finally, bang, crash. One after the other vampires broke through the glass, running onto the backyard. And unlike the Cullens, there was no greeting or anything. They just attacked, rushing up to Damon's group. But even though they looked fast, they really weren't to Damon and most of his pack. Without needing to receive any kind of order, Kane and Ocean rushed forward. The speed at which they moved made the newborns look very slow to any who could actually track them with their eyes. Thud, 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 thud. The sound of four things dropping caught the attention of all the newborn vampires that had reached the backyard and the others that were making their way out of the house. Then, without anyone noticing, Kane and Ocean were already back at Damon's side, heads in each of their hands, and a huge smile on each of their faces. Currently, there were 40 newborn vampires in the backyard of Damon's house, including the ones who hadn't made it completely out of the house, but they had stopped. They all were looking at one place, for bodies were on the floor without heads. These newborns were dead, completely dead, with their senses and emotions heightened from the recent turn. The noise had managed to attract their attention, while the fact they could be killed this easily shocked them. Fear appeared in the minds of the newborns. 4 of them were killed so easily without being able to do anything. This wasn't what they told us. This sentence echoed in the minds of all the newborns. And then the thought of running away appeared, and slowly it overpowered the fear they had for Alec's ability. Soon some of the newborns even started backing up with the intention of escaping. Arrow and Alec. It seems they want to run, says Alec as he watches the scene below unfold. Yes, they have forgotten the pain that can be inflicted upon them at any time, responds Arrow. It's time for a reminder, as he said that immediately after all that a group of heart-wrenching screams sounded from below. Looking at the screaming newborns, Damon already knew what was happening. What's going on? We haven't even begun to attack, yet they're already screaming in pain, asked Kane. An ability of one of the Volturi members, it probably can cause pain on a large scale, says Damon. He's right. It's one of the Volturi's main weapons, Alec. Carlisle says it's stepping forward with an input. So it seems that they are close by, said Damon as he watched the window on the top floor of his house. That should be them, staying back watching how things unfold. Both of them should be real members of the Volturi, thinks Damon. It seems the real targets aren't ready to appear yet, said Damon. It seems so. I wonder which of them has the power you mentioned, says Kane. It doesn't matter much, does it? Vampires' abilities rarely work on werewolves, and when they do, it takes a considerable amount of effort to get the same effect as if it was used on another vampire, says Damon. As Damon and his group conversation went on, the screams stopped, and the newborns were able to catch their breath. And they were also able to understand the meaning of that sudden pain as they stared at Damon and his pack with resolve. I guess you're right. This would be a lot less fun than I thought it would be, says Ocean. Well, you gave yourself those expectations, so it's best you go enjoy yourself, says Damon. Hearing this, the members of Damon's pack that wanted to fight sped off as bloodlust filled the air. Kane, Ocean, Joey, Crystal, and Max all rushed out, while Alice, Jasper, Bella, Damon, Rosalie, and the Cullens stayed back and watched the show. No one from Damon's pack was worried as they rushed into the 40-odd newborns. Let's bet on who kills the most. The winner can order the others to do one thing each, says Max. I'm in. The others agreed immediately as the killing was about to begin. Damon on the side moved back to Rosalie's side, as he continued to watch as the two parties were about to reach each other. It seems the whole party will be here soon. Finally, things can be cleaned up before the birth of the little princess, says Damon as he smells another group of vampires approaching, recognizing one scent in particular. There isn't much to worry about here. Maybe I should go and intercept them. thinks Damon as he caught the scent of the other Volturi group approaching. Ah! Damon is pulled from his thoughts as the screams of vampires filled his ears. The forums had finally collided, and the result was as expected. The werewolves killed the newborns with ease. Every single attack was lethal and contained werewolf venom from every bite to stab. Cain, for one, was plucking the heart of every newborn that appeared before him. His claw injected great amounts of venom in each of his targets. Ocean was far different. He liked to play with his prey, and so far had killed the least, taking his time to remove every limb before finally crushing the newborn's head. These two were by far the most unique. The others simply decapitated the vampires that came before them quickly and cleanly. Clearly, they were taking the bet more seriously. Max, for one, was doing what he could and had killed 15 vampires already. One bite was all it took for him to kill a vampire, crushing them completely and infecting them with venom. With all this going on, the vampires' numbers were dropping quickly. The battle that had just started was sure to be done before even 20 minutes had passed. Seeing this result, Damon wasn't surprised. It was expected his pack wasn't even using the gifts that received after he transformed them, as they weren't needed. But while his pack was dealing with the newborns, Damon noticed the other group had also arrived at the house, and it didn't take long for them to appear in Damon's line of sight on the bottom floor of the house looking at the events unfolding. "It seems things aren't playing out how you planned, Arrow," says Felix. "The werewolves are stronger than we originally thought. That is even more reason to get rid of them now, since we won't win by numbers. Alec will just have to subdue them, then we kill them one by one," says Arrow as he and Alec descend the stairs, also entering everyone's line of sight. "Rosalie is his weakness. She is his mate." Edward added, "You be quiet. It's your fault it took so long to arrive here in the first place," says Jane. "Never mind him, but since she is his mate, let's get rid of her first," says Arrow. As they spoke, they didn't pay any attention to doing it in secret, and Damon with his greater hearing heard everything they said word for word. Whoosh! Damon moved, speeding through the chaotic fight happening in his backyard. No one noticed he moved not the Volturi and not the werewolves in his pack. Damon left no trail. Not even an afterimage could be seen as he arrived where the Volturi were. In Damon's eyes, they were as vulnerable as a baby. Even as he got so close, they hadn't noticed him. Crack! Bam! Damon sped up to Arrow and grabbed him by the neck and squeezed hard. It didn't take long before Arrow's neck was completely crushed and his head fell to the floor, finally alerting all the Volturi members of Damon's presence. The Volturi members looked at the now decapitated Arrow and quickly fell back, assuming a defensive formation with Jane and Alec in the middle, while Felix and the other 8 vampires stood around them. "It seems you all think you can harm my family and live to tell the tale. I'm here to prove you very wrong," said Damon. His voice was surprisingly calm, not full of rage you would expect from a werewolf whose family was just threatened, but the violent aura barely contained in him said something very different. Damon, who usually liked to play with his prey, wasn't in that mood. So he moved quickly, and with every second a head dropped to the ground and broke like glass. All of their guards were dead as Damon held Felix by his neck and stared down Jane and Alec. Felix, who was being strangled and held in the air, kept trying to fight back. Bam! 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 Punches and kicks impacted Damon's body, but he remained standing and solid. "Why aren't you two using your powers? T.O., stop him!" shouted Felix as he continued to struggle in Damon's hold. "T.C., we are. He's either fighting through it or it's not affecting him," said Jane. Damon continued to squeeze Felix's neck until finally he stopped moving and his head popped off. Bam! His head dropped to the floor and shattered, and Damon dropped his body to the floor. "You idiots have made so many mistakes that I'm not even aware of, so let me explain them to you. The first was listening to whatever that idiot Edward told. The second, believing whatever he told you. The third, coming here, thinking you could kill us. Fourth was coming here. And lastly was threatening my family. At least Edward was smart enough to run from the start. You two, on the other hand, were foolish, so you will die. But don't worry, I'll send him to join you soon," says Damon. The siblings couldn't say anything. The bloodlust coming from Damon was the strongest they have ever felt, and they couldn't move. Damon quickly killed them by decapitation, and then looked back to the field behind him. While he was dealing with the Volturi, the newborns were already killed by Damon's pack, and since the place was already safe, Damon quickly sniffed the air and sped off. "Oh, Edward, do you really think you can get away after bringing this trouble to my home?" Damon asked no one in particular as he disappeared, tracking Edward. "Well, that was less exciting than I thought it would be," said Ocean. "It doesn't matter, does it? It killed the most, so you all know what that means, right?" questioned Max. "So no one is going to go after Damon?" asked Carlyle. Edward ran through the forest quickly without looking back. He didn't need to look back. He knew he was being chased, and with every step, he took the fear he felt increased and consumed him. He blamed the Volturi. He blamed Damon, anyone but himself. But it didn't matter who he blamed now. It was too late. He had got an enemy out of someone he shouldn't have, and finally, the price was going to catch up with him. Whoosh! Whoosh! Edward ran with all his might and speed, which currently wasn't that much, seeing as he was still injured. The speed he was going wasn't fast enough to escape Damon or anyone in his pack. Edward knew this, but he refused to give in. Once he accepted the fact that he couldn't escape, there would be no hope left for him to cling on to. The fact of the matter was Edward knew Damon wanted to kill him long ago, but there was always something or someone to beg for him. But this time, he had burned all bridges, leaving no one to care if he lived or died. So he ran for his life, ignoring the end he knew was coming. Damon. Damon rushed through the forest, following Edward's scent. It wasn't long till he saw Edward trying his best to run away, all his focus in front of him. Seeing this, Damon quickly approaches and in one fluid motion. Bam! Boom! One kick. Damon put a lot of his strength into the kick, and with no surprise managed to completely separate his feet from his body by the knee. Edward's feet were flung forward and collided with a tree, while Edward fell to the ground, clearly in pain if his scream was anything to go by. Damon stood over the injured Edward and shook his head. Edward rolled onto his back and looked at Damon. His eyes contained only hatred and fear. He didn't speak as he looked at Damon. He didn't cry out in pain anymore. His hatred blocked out everything. Damon, on the other hand, looked at Edward, and no emotion could be seen on his face or in his eyes. It was as if he was looking at nothing. Damon didn't care about Edward. To him, he was already dead. If anything, this was happening far later than it should have. Damon bent down and grabbed Edward's neck and squeezed. He said nothing throughout the whole process. Edward, of course, fought back, slashing and hitting Damon with his only hand. Bam! Edward's head and body dropped to the ground. Looking at the body, Damon took a lighter from his pocket and burned the body and left. There wasn't a need for torture or saying anything. Damon just did what he should have done from the start and left. He felt nothing towards Edward, seeing as he considered him dead. Already, there wasn't even a need to torture him. Damon returned to his home, quickly, only to meet the other cleaning up the damage done and burning the bodies of the vampires. Edward, Rosalie asked as she spotted his return. Dead as he should be, responded Damon. That's good. I'll be leaving with Max soon. We need to get rid of the remaining Volturi members. The others will stay here to protect you, says Damon. What about the original vampire? Asked Rosalie. One problem at a time, love. We will clean up the Volturi first, then he will be dealt with. He won't live to the day our child is born, says Damon. Damon walked up to Rosalie and hugged her. I'll be back soon, and I'll have a great surprise for you, says Damon. Fine, but it better be good. Hearing this response, Damon smiled and released Rosalie from his embrace. It won't just be good. It will become something we will never forget, says Damon as he walks into the back of the house with Rosalie following him. Arriving at the back of the house, Damon meets the others here still. The bodies have been cleaned up and burnt if the large burn spot in the yard was anything to go by, but Damon didn't care about any of this. Max, we have something to do. We're leaving now, and the rest of you will stay here to protect Rosalie, says Damon. Fine, but these guys still own me when we return, said Max. All right, we won't go back on the bet, the others said, but Max didn't believe them at all as he walked over to Damon. Be careful, both of you, says Rosalie. We will, they say in unison. From start to finish, Damon didn't even look at the Cullen who had come for protection, but he could still feel their eyes on him. It was clear they wanted to ask something, and you didn't need to be a genius to figure out what they wanted to ask. He's dead, Damon said as he and Max sped away. When he spoke, he didn't look at anyone, and he didn't mention a name, but everyone present understood who Damon was speaking about. Ice Pack wasn't surprised, and they didn't care. The Cullen was a mixed and mess. It was a combination of trying not to care and clearly sad. Finally, Carlos sighed. There was nothing he could do, and he was trying his best to feel nothing, but it wasn't that simple after caring about someone for so many years, even with everything that had happened. Saying something and really doing it are two very different things. Even though we had agreed to not care about his life or death, that really was just words. Thanks, Carlisle. Maybe that's for the best. Living with how he had become wasn't good. Maybe this will give him peace, says Carlisle. I think so as well. This should be for the best, says Esme. Away from the house, Damon and Max were moving quickly towards the Volturi base. So what's the surprise you have for Rosalie? Asked Max. You know, sometimes I forget how much you seem to like gossip, says Damon. TCH, if you don't want to tell, then don't, but don't go about spreading rumors about me. I have never once engaged in any type of gossip in my long life, says Max righteously. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to ask her to marry me. Don't you think I waited enough? Asked Damon. Hearing this, Max didn't even look surprised as they kept running. It's about time. If you had waited any longer, I would have had to step in and do it for you, says Max. What the hell? Asked Damon as he looked at Max. What? Feeling Damon's gaze, Max turned and asked. You guys getting married is not surprising. What's surprising is that you have waited this long to even ask her. You guys are soulmates, already string a family, and can't live without each other. So marriage isn't even surprising. As I said, you waited too long, says Max. Damon's expression turned to one of complete surprise as he looked at Max. Seeing Damon's expression, a look of gloating started to appear on Max's furry face. The fact that I was able to notice these things before you once again shows what we all know. You're kind of slow. Last, if I wasn't here to show you right from wrong, how would you survive in this world without being used by others? The day you met me, and I decided to let you turn me, seeing how pitiful you were, was the greatest day of your life. It could be considered that you have used up all your luck for 10 lifetimes finding a friend like me, says Max with a completely straight face and a voice full of conviction. This sentence managed to bring Damon to a halt as he stood stunned. This cunt, how can he be so fucking self-serving? This thought appeared in Damon's mind as he looked at Max, who had stopped across from him. Seeing Damon stunned and looking at him, Max continued. I know I'm majestic, but staring that long will. Max didn't get to complete his sentence as Damon rushed him and tackled him to the ground. You fucking bastard, it seems like you haven't learned to be humble, says Damon as he pins Max down. Humble for what? Do you want to take the violent route cause what I said was right? Then come on, I'm not afraid, says Max as he manages to kick Damon off him and stand up. Facing off against each other now, both Max kept their eyes on each other. One mistake would let the other take advantage. Hey Damon, I'm not afraid of you, but shouldn't we deal with the Volturi before we settle this? Asked Max. I actually forgot about that, said Damon. And you think you can match my genius, thinks Max. Fine, let's deal with them first, then settle this, says Damon as he turns to continue on. As he did, a light shinned in Max's eyes, and he quickly jumped Damon. Or we settle it now. After all, it won't take long, just call me uncle, and I'll stop, says Max excitedly. All Damon knew was a shadow covered him. Then he heard Max's voice, and he knew he was tricked, but it was too late as Max already had him pinned down. 1 hour and some minutes later, Max and Damon were finally able to settle themselves and were on their way to the Volturi. Damo's clothes had rips in different places, while Max didn't look like anything happened to him as they continued to rush forward. Thanks, as they rushed, Damon says. Huh, you're thanking me for a beating? I knew you had some fetishes, but I didn't expect this, says Max. Hearing this, Damon shakes his head. Can't you be serious for a minute? I'm thanking you for thinking about my future and for being there for me and Rosalie, says Damon. Don't ever do that again, said Max seriously. Oh, why? Damon asked, surprised by his response. I just thank you, says Damon. I know, but don't do it again. We're brothers. You never have to thank me for that kind of thing. You would do the same for me. There's no need for those words to be said between us. We just do what brothers are supposed to do for each other, says Max. I guess you're right. We are brothers, so this will be the last time I ever thank you. We just do what is expected, said Damon. Good. Who would have thought that one day I would have a wolf as a best friend, as a brother, but I couldn't ask for a better one. Thinks Damon. Hey, I just had a great idea, says Damon. I bet it isn't, said Max. Oh, come on, I can have good ideas, says Damon. Fine, let's hear it, says Max. Why don't you find a female wolf, and I'll turn her, then you two can have a baby, and we can raise our kid together, says Damon. Misham, for once it really isn't a bad idea, says Damon. So what do you say? Asks Damon. Fine, let's do it, but we have something to do first, remember, says Max. Yeah, I haven't forgotten. Let's go deal with them. I'll have to buy a ring as well, says Damon. Damon and Man continued on their way this time, no or stopping, both thinking of the future. Max thinks of raising a son and teaching him to troll Damon, while Damon thinks of his whole family together after all the threats have been killed off, living for eternity, and of course, he was also thinking of how to get back at Max for before. As they got closer to the Volturi headquarters, their targets had no idea that the teams they had sent were dead, and they would be next. Damon and Max had upped their travel speed and arrived in the city where the headquarters of the Volturi was by nightfall. When they arrived, they didn't draw any unwanted attention to themselves as they walked around. This city smells disgusting. Max complains as he walks next to Damon with his face distorted from the smell. I agree, it's best we do your business quickly and leave. Smelling this for too long will surely kill me. Damon says, a city which is the home of vampires. It smells terrible sweet, but I guess that's to be expected, thinks Damon. And as they moved forward complaining about the smell, they were also using it to find out how many vampires there were in the city. The places with the highest number of vampires is straight ahead, and there are some more throughout the city, says Max. Yeah, it seems it best we split up and deal with them separately. The only question is who goes where, says Damon. For all I care, you can go to the headquarters. I'll deal with the stragglers. Then just follow my scent to find me. I'll be somewhere outside the range of the scent, says Max as he speeds off, no doubt, going after one of the vampires he had found, leaving Damon standing alone. All right then, into the vampire nest we go, says Damon as he speeds off. Wood's a couple miles away. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. For shadows moving quickly are running through the forest heading in the direction of the city Damon and Max are in right now. It was clear from their speed they aren't humans, that only left vampires. The darkness of night covered their faces, and combined with their speed, it was impossible to tell what they looked like. As they ran in formation, one soon spoke. Why has Master suddenly ordered the destruction of the Volturi? One of the shadows asked in a deep voice belonging to a man. Who knows? The only thing to do is carry out his orders completely. I'm sure lately you all have noticed Master becoming crazier by the day. Another shadow says in a feminine voice. Oh, how I miss the good old time, the third says. We all do. But seeing as 2 vampires sent by Master have been killed, you can't belay him for becoming suspicious, says the final shadow. Suspicion, is that what you call it? I would think it was full-on crazy, one responded. You two stop now, isn't the time for you to start fighting. Even though the mission this time is easy, we can't make any mistakes. The Volturi must be wiped out. If even one person escapes, we will be killed. I'm sure you all know that. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if we complete this mission or not. With the way things are developing, we will be dead soon either way. And you all know I'm right. Well, it's been a good life, longer than expected, but at least I enjoyed it. TCH, you all are complaining as if you have the right. So what if Master kills us? If it wasn't for him, we'd all be dead anyway. He saved us, letting us live this long, enjoying anything we wanted. If he wants to end this life of ours, just present your neck for him to cut, one of the shadows said. Hearing this, the others turned quiet. If they agreed with what was said or not is unknown. They continued forward as all conversation ceased. Max, after leaving Damon, Max had run off to find his first target to begin his killing spree for the night. But all he cared about was getting out of the terrible smell that kept invading his nose. Max's first target was a man who was about to feed on a local in an alleyway. When Max arrived, he didn't waste any time and swiftly bite off the head of his target, making sure the blow would kill by using his venom. As for the lady that was about to be fed on, she stood shocked as the vampire that was holding her from behind, in a tight hold, suddenly dropped to the ground. "I'm glad you're fine, but I don't have the time to help you through your panic right now. So sleep and think of this as a dream." Hearing the voice from behind her, the lady who was just saved was scared, even more so than when she was being attacked before. But as the panic started setting and she noticed her vision getting darker until there was nothing. "On to the next one," says Max as he glances towards the corroding body. "It should be gone by morning," was all he said, then sped off. Max's night continued like this as he went from one target to the other, killing them all with a bite filled with venom, then leaving their bodies to corrode. As the time passed, Max had already killed nearly 15 vampires throughout the city, and was now had his final target. "Just up ahead," said Max as he ran on the main road towards his target. It wasn't long till a person appeared in his view, and Max attacked, growing one size from his current dog size, to bite off the person's head in one go. Bam! The body dropped to the ground, making it truly the 15th vampire he killed tonight. Another life lost. But Max could careless all this meant to him was that he could exit this city and get away from this terrible smell that was enveloping this city. Not waiting around, Max set off from where he came, heading straight out of the city until he was out of range of the smell. "I'm sure Damon will be fine. He should be back by the time this scent is cleared from my nose and I'm able to smell properly again," said Max. But what Max didn't notice was that 4 pairs of eyes were watching him in interest. If the smell wasn't bothering him as much, maybe he would have been able to focus on hearing them. But now he was clearly in trouble without knowing it. "Damn, that fucking smell is disgusting. Damon better hurry the hell up and finish his part of things," Max says out loud. While Max was trying to clear his nose of the smell, the 4 pairs of eyes watching him now contained a trace of what could only be called surprise and interest. But they still didn't move or talk as Max was still facing their general direction. But as he continued to shake his head, trying to get rid of the smell, his back was now facing them, and without hesitation, the 4 people moved. Bam! Boom! Boom! Max's unprepared for an attack was flung out as one of the 4 managed to kick him away. As he was currently the size of a house dog, the strength of the kick managed to blast him through 4 trees before he fell to the ground. "Hey, Zach, you idiot, what if you killed it? I want to observe it more. This is the first time I have ever seen a talking dog," one of the vampires said. "Relax, Angel. I lifted my strength. At most, the dog should be knocked out. We don't have time to waste here anyway. So just go get it and let's go," says the vampire revealed to be Zach. "All right, I'll go get." She didn't get to finish as a voice invaded their ears. Today isn't turning out to be a good day at all. I just wanted to get rid of this scent now. I have to deal with these 4 idiots. Couldn't they have waited until Damon comes back?" The voice says, talking to itself. But the 4 vampires all looked towards where Max had been kicked away to, as there were footsteps. It didn't take much longer for Max to appear before them, completely unharmed, as if nothing happened. He hadn't changed his size, he just raised his head and looked at the vampires. Seeing that Max returned and was staring at them, the vampires also stared at him. "Zach, I know you said you'd be back, but shouldn't he at least be injured?" asked Angel. "He should be," Zach says. Max just listened. Then suddenly his body began to grow bigger before their eyes, from the size of a small dog to the size of an elephant. His eyes shined with killing intent. "I'm not in the mood to hear you 2 talk. Since you attack me, I'll send you on your way quickly," says Max as he attacks right away. Volturi base. After Damon and Max separated, it didn't take long for Damon to find his way toward the headquarters, and without any hesitation or any kind of plan, Damon approached the building that had 2 people standing outside. The building itself was very old based on its design and looked very beautiful. But Damon didn't pay attention to any of this as he approached. There was only one thing on his mind, and that was to kill everyone in this building. Damon didn't try in the slightest to hide his presence or sneak in as he approached the main entrance, and gained the attention of the 2 guards. As they focused on Damon, he disappeared from their sight. As they took him as a normal human, they could not even know they were in danger before a hand existed their chest, and they sunk into eternal sleep. With his attack containing his venom, Damon was sure the 2 were dead, so he turned and moved deeper into the building. He didn't encounter much resistance, only 1 other vampire, before he encountered a large door with 2 more guards that were easily dispatched as Damon pushed open the door and entered the room. As Damon entered, the occupants of the room turned to face him, and he also focused on them. The leader of the Volturi, or at least the two that were still alive, Marcus and Caius. "Who are you and why have?" The question was left unfinished as Damon rushed up and grabbed Marcus's neck, making him shut up. Caius, who couldn't follow Damon's movement, looked bewildered as he stared at where Damon was standing before. It wasn't until he heard Marcus struggling that he turned around in time to see his friend's neck crushed in Damon's hands. Surprisingly, Caius didn't look that worried or even upset as Marcus's body dropped to the ground. Caius rushed to Damon and managed to grab his neck. A triumphant look appeared on his face as he increased the strength of his hold on Damon's neck, but Damon didn't even seem fazed as he casually grabbed Caius's wrist and pulled his hand from his neck and then ripped it from his body. H. A heart-wrenching scream echoed in the room, surely alerting all the other vampires in the building. "Look what you have done. Seem I'll have to speed up," says Damon as he approaches the screaming Caius. Realizing his death was near, Caius managed to suppress his fear as he spoke. "Please, I beg you, spare me. I haven't done anything to you. Why must you kill us?" Caius said repeatedly as Damon approached him. Seeing his begging not having the desired result, Caius spoke once again, trying another tactic. "Please spare us. It would be for your own good. Once you kill us, it will alert a stronger force, and you'll be killed. So just leave, and we will pretend this never happened, otherwise your death is sure along with everyone you hold dear," says Caius. "You mean the original vampire?" asked Damon. Yes, since you know it's best to leave now, otherwise you should know only death will await you," says Caius, not caring how Damon knew about the original vampire. "Well, if it will draw him out, that's good. I want to deal with him anyway. So I guess we can add another reason to kill you to the list," says Damon. Caius couldn't say anything else as darkness consumed his mind. Peaceful. That was the atmosphere in the city. No one would be able to tell the amount of death that has happened in this city in one night. Form the vampires killed by Max. Then the Volturi base that was completely empty now due to the attack of Damon. This city was now completely empty of vampires. Maybe the only place in the world that could hold that distinction. After killing Marcus and Caius, Damon went on to continue his attack on the vampires that were alerted by the noise then. Finally, he killed Athenodora, Sulpicia, and Corin, who were the wife of Caius and Aro, while Corin would use her gift to comfort both women. They weren't in the main building, but even so, they didn't escape death at Damon's hands. Through the entrance Damon had used to enter the building, about 15 minutes later, he once again appeared here. Leaving the building, it took 15 minutes to destroy the Volturi. His methods were simple, decapitation, and his action were quick, which lead to the quick and complete destruction of the Volturi and all present members. As Damon emerged from the building, he simply increased his speed, rushing out of the city, leaving it now free of vampires as he rushed off to catch up with Max. Max! Crunch! Bam! A broken body dropped out of Max's mouth as he continued to stare at the two remaining vampires. "You four aren't like the normal, disgusting-smelling kind, so you must be working for the original. So what are you doing here?" Max asked. "We will just destroy the Volturi, then we will be on our way. We had no intention of coming after you," answered one of the vampires. The previous nonchalant they had was gone, replaced with seriousness with traces of fear. Hearing this response, Max was surprised. What were the chances that both parties would come to destroy the Volturi on the same night? Normally, Max would be able to tell if they were lying, just the smell, but seeing as he was currently having a problem, all he could do was believe his instincts. They are telling the truth, but it doesn't really matter. We're going to war with vampires, and since they were sent to destroy the Volturi, and we did it, we can use them for cover in the meantime, since even though Damon wants them gone before the child is born, we won't doing it now, at least now before the wedding. So we can't have them going back and telling the truth. And even though we do have a way to control them, there's no guarantee that the original won't be able to see through that. So there's only one other solution. Thanks, Max. It turns out I'm a fantastic storyteller. And now, hearing your explanation, I've come up with a new story. You see, 4 vampires were sent to destroy the Volturi, But the Volturi turned out to be stronger than expected, and the four powerful vampires fought with the Volturi to the death as they managed to destroy the Volturi with the price being their life. I think this story would be very popular and acceptable, your master, don't you think so? Asked Max. Hearing the story, Max came up with the two remaining vampires were easily able to determine there was no chance of Max letting them go peacefully, and the worst part of it was what he said was correct. Their master wouldn't care about their death as long as the mission was accomplished, and from a story, Max told the Volturi would be destroyed. Whether it had already been destroyed, they didn't know. But it didn't matter, as Max had shown he had the strength to do it, so if he did it after he killed them, didn't matter. Knowing they were in danger, the two vampires didn't hesitate, as they turned and set off at high speed, disappearing from Max's direct sight. Max stood looking at the fleeing vampires, but didn't move. Boom! Boom! Soon two shadows flew through the air, landing in front of Max. As Damon appeared, coming from the direction the vampires were fleeing to. Crunch! Max, without hesitation, bites off the heads of the two vampires as their bodies drop to the ground. Then Max spat out their heads. You seem to have been entertaining company while I was busy, says Damon, looking at the now shrinking Max. It sure as hell wasn't pleasing company, and I still can't get that smell out of my nose. What if it doesn't work right anymore? Asked Max. Well, it's simple. We would just need to get a wolf with a working nose, won't we? Says Damon. Please, as if you could ever replace me, says Max. You're right, it would be almost impossible to find another wolf that's as dumb as you, says Damon. Pot calling the kettle black, don't you think? Asked Max. TCH, let's deal with these bodies then, set off. We still have a stop to get my engagement ring anyway, says Damon. The two didn't mess around anymore as they got to work cleaning up the area and getting rid of the traces from the fight. It didn't take that long as they collected the bodies and burned them. Won't they send more vampires to find out what happened when these guys don't show up? Asked Max. I would guess, but by then the scent of their burning bodies should have already been gone, so they shouldn't be able to find anything, says Damon. The Volturi has been destroyed, and all the parts of our bodies are still working fine. So I think it's time we celebrate, says Damon. Maybe tomorrow let's find the closest city and get some sleep. We will celebrate and look for your ring tomorrow, said Max. Coming to this conclusion, Max and Damon sprint off into the distance, leaving the immediate area quickly, as it leaves their mind never to be thought about again. The night passed, and Damon and Max found a city after running at high speed for a while. Then from there, it was straight to a hotel that allowed dogs. And after texting Rosalie and letting her know that they wouldn't be back tonight, Damon and Max took a shower at the request of Max to try getting rid of the vampire scent still holding his nose hostage. After the shower, it was straight to bed, as it would seem killing so much in so little time hadn't affected their sleep in the least, as they fell asleep in a minute after their heads touched the pillow. And so the night passed quickly. Next morning, on a king-size bed in a high-class hotel room, one could see a man and what looked to be a dog sleeping together, in a rather hilarious fashion due to the position they were in. The man was on his back with his arms and feet stretched out on both sides, taking up a lot of the bed. The dog was fairly big, but the space left on either side was enough to accommodate him, but instead up was sleeping on the chest of the man, with one of his back foot on the man's mouth as it happened to be open, and his tail ran down the center of the man's face as the dog's head had fallen to the side with his tongue hanging out. The position they were in looked uncomfortable, but it didn't stop them from sleeping through the night and half of the day. Sometime later, bam! I'm up, Max shouted as he jumped up from the ground and looked around to see what happened. Do you really need to be that loud this early in the morning? Asked Damon as opened his eyes and stretched, then turned to Max. I'm going to order room service. You want something? Yeah, about 12 scrambled eggs and as much ham as they got, answered Max as he snapped from his surprise. Damon just nodded and hopped off the bed and went toward the phone. Damon looked at the extension list below until he found what he was looking for. Picking up the phone, he dialed 9, then pressed the phone to his right ear. Hello, good morning. How may we serve you today? A cheerful voice sounded in Damon's ears. Hi, I'm just ordering breakfast. I would like 24 scrambled eggs, as much ham as I can get, and the biggest cup of coffee you got, says Damon. The line was silent, with both sides not talking clearly. The person on the other side was shocked by the request. Damon waited for the person to answer, but seeing it was taking so long, he opened his mouth to speak, but was cut off. Sir, it's 1 in the afternoon. We don't usually serve breakfast at this time, but I will organize it anyway. It will be delivered in 10 minutes. The voice said, clearly less cheerful than the first time. Well, sorry for the inconvenience, says Damon as he hangs up the phone. Well, the food will be here soon. I'm going to take a shower, says Damon as he walks into the bathroom and closes the door. Max, on the other hand, climbed back onto the bed and curled into a ball and went back to sleep. 12 minutes later, Damon exits the bathroom in nothing but a towel as he looks on the bed to see the sleep Max. But before he could do anything, he hears a knock on the room door. Leaving Max, Damon walks to the door and opens it to see 3 men pushing serving carts. Oh, you have our food. We'll come in, says Damon as he moves out of the way. As he does, the men push the carts into the room, revealing 1 giant plate of eggs and 2 giant plates of what looked like sliced ham. And then there was a cup of coffee. Smelling the arrival of food, Max had woken up and jumped from the bed. Damon didn't even bother with him as he went for his pants and took out his wallet and tipped the 3 men $100 each, after which they left and Damon and Max started eating. It wasn't long after that they had finished eating and left the hotel and were currently walking around the city looking for a place to buy an engagement ring. Oh, I don't feel like walking anymore. We have no idea where to go or where we are, says Max as it sounds like a normal dog crying as there are other people around. Fine if it will shut up. I'll call a taxi, says Damon as pulls out his phone. Should have done that from the start. Max grumbles. Raises eyes for his phone, Damon responds. You know, I always wanted to eat wolf meat. I hear it's supposed to be soft and sweet. You cannibal. I can't believe I'm friends with a cannibal. Max says as he steps back. Oh, shut it, will you? The taxi should be here any moment, says Damon. How can I shut up when all this time you tricked me into thinking we were friends, and now I hear you want to eat me? Asks Max. Oh my God, it was a joke, says Damon. Then why didn't I find it funny? Asks Max. The taxi is here, so let's go, says Damon. They both enter the taxi as the driver turns to them and asks, Where do you want to go? Take us to the nearest jeweler's store, says Damon. All right. The drive was short, and they arrived at a high-end jeweler's store and entered it. The store was huge with 4 long counters showcasing different types of jewelry. There was also a woman behind each counter. Damon wasted no time and went straight for the ring display. All the rings they had showing looked incredible, but as Damon looked them over, he had already made up his mind on the one that best suited Rosalie. How much for that ring? Asked Damon, pointing to a ring that had a huge pink diamond with 2 other diamonds on each side while being held in place by what looked like claws made from gold. Good afternoon, sir. The price for that ring would be around $30,000, but if the price is $30,000, that's fine. Wrap it up for me. The size looks to be about what I'm looking for, so there should be no need for resizing, says Damon. Right away, sir. The lady looked surprised at Damon's quick decision, but she still acted quick. Well, that was fast, says Max. Yeah, the first store we went to, but you can't deny that this ring fits her perfectly, says Damon. I guess you're right. So what are we doing after? You want to relax a while before we head back, or head back to Fork straight away? Asks Max. I think we should head back. I plan if we run at top speed, we should return before it's too late. I plan to propose to Rosalie tonight. After all, I've waited long enough, says Damon. All right, straight back it is. Sir, the ring has already been wrapped up for you. Will you be paying in cash or card? We accept all major Visa and MasterCards, the lady said. Okay. Damon took out his wallet and handed the lady the first card he saw. After that, they didn't stay much longer in the store. After the process was over, Damon took the ring and he and Max left the city. The two then started running back to Forks at a very high speed, hoping to return before 8 at night, seeing as Damon wanted to carry Rosalie out. And their rushing did pay off. It was about 5 when they arrived back in Forks and entered the house. You guys took longer than we thought you would. So did something happen? Questioned Rosalie as she walked downstairs. Nothing we can't handle. Anyways, go get ready because tonight we're going out, says Damon. Oh, what's the occasion? Nothing that's special. I just realized we haven't been out for a while. So let's go. I won't take no for an answer. We meet back here at 7, says Damon. Fine. Rosalie ascended the stair and returned to their room, most likely getting ready for their dinner, while Damon soon followed and Max sped off into the forest. Time skipped. It was 7, and Rosalie was standing at the door waiting for Damon. She was dressed in all red, a beautiful flowing red dress, red heels, and red lipstick. She looked absolutely beautiful. It wasn't long after that Damon also arrived dressed in a black suit. "You look beautiful, love," says Damon. "Thank you. You look handsome as well. So where are we going tonight?" asked Rosalie. "I've made reservations at a restaurant, and after that, I still have another surprise for you," says Damon. "All right, then let's go," says Rosalie. They left the house and went outside to one of Damon's cars as he opened the door for her and then shut it before he went around to his side and drove off. "It's been a long time since we used a car, hasn't it?" asked Rosalie. "It has, after all, most times at the speed we move if they aren't needed," says Damon. "After I give birth, we will be using them more to carry around our child, which reminds me we need a car seat," says Rosalie. "We would need a car more suitable for that too. After all, the car we have right now are supercars," says Damon. "Maybe a minivan," says Rosalie. "Ha ha ha." Both laughed at that. Rosalie then stretched out her hand and grabbed one of Damon's as she intertwined her fingers with his, leaving him one hand to drive with. As they arrived along, they continued the small talk until they arrived at the restaurant. Damon escorted her inside after leaving his car to be parked by a chauffeur. They entered and found the place empty as Damon had paid a lot of money to rent out the whole place for one night, so they could have the place to themselves. The only people here were the chauffeur, a waiter, and a chef. They spent 3 hours in the restaurant talking about anything that came to mind, from their future child's name to how many more they were having. When were they leaving Forks, as they could stay here, forever seeing as they wouldn't age. They also talked about heavier topics, such as what happened to the Volturi and when they were going to deal with the original vampire. They had come to the conclusion that the Volturi destruction wouldn't cause too much trouble. Vampires didn't want to be exposed anyway, so they would keep hidden, and the thought of something out there being able to destroy the whole Volturi would surely keep them in check. After they were finished at the restaurant, Damon began to drive until he couldn't anymore. So he stopped the car and got out, bringing Rosalie with him. They walked through the forest as fireflies lit up the sides, causing a beautiful sight. Rosalie looked at this display as her eyes sparkled. The fireflies formed a walkway that they followed until they reached a place that made Rosalie stop. Seeing this, Damon spoke. "This is the place we first meet. It seemed only fitting this be the place," says Damon. "The place for what?" Damon let go of Rosalie's hand and stood in front of her, then got down on one knee. "Rosalie, I love you with all my heart. Words couldn't describe what I feel about you. Since I meet you, I can't imagine a day in the future without you. And for that, I've decided to spend the rest of my life with you. The person I love the most beautiful woman in the world inside and out. Rosalie, would you do me the honor of being my wife?" asked Damon. Rosalie stood looking at Damon, who was on one knee, and as the words echoed in her mind, it didn't take long for her eyes to water and tears to start pouring down her face. Yes, I will marry you." Without hesitation, Rosalie answered loudly as she pulled Damon to his feet and launched herself into his arms with tears still pouring down her face. Damon, on the other hand, was feeling extreme happiness and relief as he heard Rosalie's answer. Even though he knew with all his heart that Rosalie would say yes, he was still nervous during the process. Damon was so happy, in fact, for the first time since he came to this world. He shed tears as he hugged Rosalie. As their embrace ended, Damon slipped a ring on her finger. "I love it, Damon," says Rosalie as she looks at the ring. "I thought you might say that. After all, I know you very well, my love, and some so beautiful would only be fitting on your hand," says Damon. Rosalie blushed at his compliment. Even though he made sure to compliment her every day, Rosalie still got flustered by it. As they looked into each other's eyes lovingly, they both sighed and turned to look to their right. "All right, guys, you can come out now. We know you were there," says Damon. After saying that, the shadow on their right moved, and the whole pack appeared one after the other, all having smiles on their faces. "At least you did one thing right. Coming back to the place you two met was a nice touch," said Max. "Of course, I know that. I did it, didn't I?" says Damon. "I'm so happy. Rosalie, it's decided I will help you plan your wedding. Oh, I can't wait for your wedding to come. Flowers, dancing, and music. It will be the best day of your life," says Alice as she runs up and grabs Rosalie from Damon. "Calm down, Alice. We haven't even set a date yet, says Rosalie. As soon as possible. We be getting married as soon as possible, well before the baby comes. And I'm sure Rosalie doesn't want a big wedding, just family, says Damon. Yes, Damon is right. The wedding won't be a big one. Just everyone who is here right now will be enough, says Rosalie. All right, everyone, let's get back home. We have things to do for the wedding, says Damon. After saying that, the group returned to the house, and that night they celebrated the engagement of Damon and Rosalie. After that night, Rosalie couldn't get a moment of peace in the next couple of days, as Alice dragged her all over the place, tending to all her wedding details. Alice's excitement affected everyone in the house, as they each helped prepare the things needed for the wedding. And the time passed by quickly, and before anyone noticed anything, 2 months had passed, and all the plans for the wedding had been made and carried out, all accumulated into this day. Wedding day. Currently, on a cliff facing a magnificent view of a green and healthy forest below, there was a white arch set up, with a small number of chairs facing it, with Damon standing by the arch wearing a suit and looking down at the approaching wedding party. In the distance, one could see Max walking slowly towards the wedding site at his full size, as Rosalie sat on his back with her huge dress trailing down the sides of Max. To the side of Max, the other members of the pack could also be seen dressed in suits and dresses, walking slowly beside Max while they sang "Here Comes the Bride." As the wedding party approached, Max began to slowly decrease his size until they arrived at the beginning of the rows of chairs, and Rosalie stood on her own feet, looking dead at Damon, who hadn't taken his eyes off her since she came on sight. The pack members didn't stop singing as Bella and Slice came to Rosalie's side and held her dress as she walked down the aisle. As she did, the member one by one found their seats, as Ocean sped to the arch and stood further back so Damon could stand in front of him as he would be doing the ceremony. It wasn't long after that Rosalie reached the end of the aisle, standing directly across from Damon. "You look beautiful, my love," says Damon. "As do you, my dear," says Rosalie. "Let's start the ceremony," says Ocean. "We are gathered here today to sickness the union of Rosalie and Damon, as these two become one." Ocean continued carrying the ceremony orderly and correctly until he got to the vows. "Rosalie, you are my life and my heart. Before I formed my mate bond with you, I never wanted one. But since the day we meet, I know I could never be complete without you. I couldn't live without you. You are the love of my life, the light in my heart. You are my everything, and I will spend the coming eternity we are together making you happy," says Damon. "Damon, I've spent the most part of my life waiting for the one who would love me, even after knowing the real me. And I thank God every day it was you. You with your love made my heart literally beat once more, and have occupied the most important place in my heart. If you're sad, I'm sad. If you're happy, I'm happy. We live and die together," says Rosalie. They both smiled, hearing the other's vows, and held hands as their fingers intertwined and affection spilled from their bodies. After their vows were said, the ceremony continued, as they said, "I do. By the power invested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride," says Ocean. Damon and Rosalie immediately kissed, filled with passion and love, and their kiss lasted for at least 5 minutes before they separated. With the wedding done and out of the way, the pack went into relaxation mode. With nothing planned, the pack spent the 2 weeks after the wedding doing their own thing outside the house, and only came back after 2 weeks to give Rosalie and Damon some alone time. As they returned, nothing changed. The only thing they did was relax, as they all knew this was the calm before the storm. Soon they would be up against the oldest vampire in existence and his followers. And as the days passed, that day was becoming clearer, as Damon had told them some news when they returned to the house. The news was simple, but it contained a lot of information that would affect the plans of the pack. This was also why they hadn't gone after the original vampire yet. The news Damon had given them was this: the baby had stopped absorbing his aura, and the rate at which Rosalie was absorbing his aura had increased by a great deal. The news shocked them all. If the speed at which Rosalie was absorbing aura had increased, they had no way of knowing when her transformation would be done. Damon had thought since the baby was absorbing more than Rosalie, she wouldn't be finished with her transformation before the baby was born. And since they didn't want to wait for the baby to be born before dealing with the original vampire, they would deal with it after Damon and Rosalie's honeymoon. But obviously, things have changed. No one dared to leave the house now, or let any visitors near the house. This was the most crucial time, as Rosalie's transformation would be felt by all vampires in the world. Currently at the house. The mood in the house was completely serious, as everyone except Damon and Rosalie were gathered in the living room. Damon said the speed has slowed down this morning, but that isn't something to be happy about. He said either today or tomorrow Rosalie won't be able to absorb any more of his aura, so her transformation will be done during that time, says Max. Everyone knows what that means. It will take a few days after the transformation, but vampires will storm this place. Our job is simple, that is to kill all who dared come, says Kane. Even if we're stronger than those first-generation vampires, we are still outnumbered greatly. We won't come out of this completely uninjured, says Ocean. You guys don't need to worry too much. As long as Damon is in good enough condition when they arrive, this will be nothing more than a training exercise. And even if he isn't, he'll carry most of the load, just deal with those that get past me, says Max. There's no need for that. We are all family, we will fight together. And as Max said, once our leader is all right, this will be all right, says Crystal. What about Bella? A head wasn't turned by Damon, so she is far weaker than us. Not only her, but Alice and Jasper as well, says Joey, clearly worried about his mate. Alice and Jasper won't be taking part in this fight. Having them there and still having to protect them will only put us in danger. As for Bella, I'll bite her, says Damon, interrupting Max as he appears coming down the stairs with Rosalie. As they appeared, the pack's eyes focused on Rosalie as their hair stood on end, and they immediately wanted to take a step back, all except Max. Max instead walked up to Rosalie and rubbed his head on her. This little action seemed to calm everyone as Rosalie smiled and rubbed Max's head. I'm glad you're still the same, Max, says Rosalie. It's impossible for them not to feel it the first time they see you like this. I'm sure it won't happen again, says Max. He's right. Right now you can't really feel it, but you're leaking small amounts of aura. Seeing that you're ever so close to being an original vampire, it's not weird for them to be on guard, especially seeing that they are werewolves, says Damon. You are right, love. It seems they are already over it, says Rosalie while looking at the rest pack member that has relaxed. It seems we have another problem, says Damon looking at Alice and Jasper. Rosalie and Max followed his eyes and saw Alice and Jasper looking at her with what seemed to be submission. What am I supposed to do with them watching me like that? Asked Rosalie. Best we return upstairs until your transformation is finished and you can control your aura and newfound strength, says Damon. Joey, bring Bella to the backyard later. She is too weak to participate in what's to come, so I'll fix that, says Damon as he and Rosalie return upstairs. Even though her transformation was almost finished, Rosalie didn't look any different on the outside, but on the inside, it was a different matter completely. All her organs were working hundreds, if not thousands of times stronger than that of a normal human, and they worked much faster and more efficiently than humans. Currently, Rosalie couldn't be mistaken for a vampire at all. If anything, she was like a very advanced superhuman that needed to drink human blood. She was completely alive and even harder to kill than before. If she's that powerful now, how strong will she be after her transformation is finished? Asked Ocean. I haven't felt my instincts react in such a way since I was turned by Damon, says Kane. Max, why didn't you react the same as us? Asked Joey. As the first turned, and the one Damon intended to be the strongest and closest to him in strength, even though my instincts warned me, I wasn't a point that I felt I needed to run. Make no mistake, she is currently stronger than I am, but she still isn't anywhere near what I've felt from Damon, says Max. Another day passed, and finally, Rosalie had stopped absorbing aura from Damon, and the pack was on even higher alert. Since earlier in the morning, Rosalie had already stopped absorbing aura, but nothing had happened since then, and the day was quickly approaching the end, but the pack wasn't letting their guard down and was only getting tenser as time passed. Wasn't something supposed to happen, causing some big reaction or something? Asked Ocean. I guess so, but nothing has happened, and it is about to be an entire day since her transformation was supposed to be complete, says Kane. You both don't need to worry about it. Rosalie's transformation is already finished. I can sense the change. She has become so much stronger than a day ago, and she smells strong, says Max. So why aren't they coming down here yet? Asked Joey. It's probably best they don't. Remember how you guys reacted before? Asked Max. Yeah. Since Rosalie's transformation is complete, the original vampire should be aware, and the other vampires should have felt it as well. Now is not the time to drop our guard. I want you all to search the surrounding area to make sure there are not any enemies or unfamiliar vampires in the area. If they are, kill them. There isn't a need to ask questions. Now isn't the time to be nice, says Max. All right, we will head out now and report back any findings, says Kane. And remember, if there's an army approaching, fall back and regroup. No one is to engage the army of the original vampire alone, says Max. Yes. Whoosh. The pack sped out one after the other, leaving Max alone in the living room, while Damon and Rosalie were still upstairs. Things were happening. The completion of Rosalie's transformation had caused a stir in the supernatural world, and every vampire could feel the birth of a new original as some foolish one headed towards Forks, wanting to know how they too could become an original. Of course, there were also the smart ones, which consisted of the first-generation vampires turned by the first original. They who knew the horror and strength of an original vampire didn't bother going towards Forks, but instead stayed in place waiting for the order they were sure was coming from their master. But this was the best outcome for Damon's pack. The normal vampires posed no threat. Even if their number were large, they would be killed quicker than more arrived in Forks, being hunted down for the first time in their life since they became vampires. Unnamed Castle. While the vampires were going crazy because of the destruction of the Voturi and the emergence of another original vampire in a very old and beautiful castle, the first original vampire was sitting on his throne. His eyes shined with madness and rage as he stared into space, but his gaze was so concentrated it felt as though he was looking through the walls of the castle to a faraway place. A woman, a pregnant woman, at that thinks she can threaten my rule? He spoke in a deep, almost ancient voice. And the man, he isn't a vampire, a werewolf, and a powerful one at that. Together, it seems they think they can kill me. Imperfect being with flawed thinking, but I will have to go myself. He has a pact the members can cause me no harm, but it would be best to summon the army, he says. But before that, there are some who would switch sides. It best I get rid of them now to save some effort later and to send a warning. Saying this, his right hand stretched out as it slowly became covered in aura, but unlike Damon's, it was blood red. Rumble! The whole castle began to shake as he held out his hand. I gave you the gift of immortal life, and I can take it away. He slowly clenched his fingers into a fist, and the red aura disappeared, and the shaking stopped abruptly. Besides a little shaking, nothing happened to the castle, and none of the vampires who lived in it died. But that wasn't the case for the rest of the world. First-generation vampires dropped dead in cities all over the world. It once again shocked the vampire who noticed, but the other first-generation vampires that wasn't dead got the message. After killing the vampires that had rebellious thoughts, the original vampire who was still his throne spoke. I, Ezekiel, the true original vampire, call my followers to assembly and charge with me to kill the fake one and her werewolf pack. I expect that you all will be gathered before me by the end of the day. If not, I will take that as a choice you made to support the imposter, and you will die, he said while still sitting on his throne. He may have said it in an empty room, but his voice echoed in the minds of the intended, whether they were on the other side of the planet or just miles away. They all heard the message and began to move frantically heading towards his castle. While the original vampire had started to gather his army, Damon and Rosalie were still in their room in the house. They will be coming soon. Your job is to stay in the house and stay safe. You won't be participating in this fight, says Damon. But I know you are stronger than the others, but you are carrying our child. And even though you have become stronger, you can't control your power. You just have to trust that we will be all right, says Damon. Fine, but if I see you in danger, I will come and help you. I don't care what you have to say about that. I won't watch you die while I could have helped you, says Rosalie. That the best I'm going to get, isn't it? Asked Damon. It is. Well, fine, I agree. Just stay safe, says Damon. Bam! Crack! A headless body dropped to the ground as it shattered into pieces. Ah, I'm getting really tired of this. Can't they all come together so I can just kill them all? This running back and forth is getting boring real quick, says Ocean, standing above the body. As Ocean takes a lighter out of his pocket and sets the pieces on fire, another person appears behind him. Ocean, all the vampires in the immediate area are dead, and Max has returned. There is an army of vampires approaching quickly. We need to fall back and regroup, says Kane. Already? That's quicker than we thought it would be. Yeah, so let's go. We can't lead them into the town, so we are heading deeper into the forest. Damon and the others are already there. What about Rosalie? Asked Ocean. She is there also. Plans have changed. She still won't be fighting, but if we had left her in the house, they would have gone straight for her by going through the town. It would involve the humans, and we can't let that happen, says Kane. After they finished talking, the two sped off deeper into the forest, heading towards the rest of the pack, as things were about to kick off in the most dangerous of fashions. With the speed of the two, it didn't take long for them to arrive at the meeting point far away from any humans. So where are the shapeshifters? I taught after the increasing number of vampires and forks they would be here, says Crystal. I sent them away. They wouldn't provide any kind of help in this situation, and it isn't really their fight, says Damon. You're right. They would end up being only a distraction. As the group conversed, their enemies were getting closer and closer until one by one vampires appeared coming out of the forest opposite them. The group immediately got into formation. Damon stood to the front, with the others forming another row behind him, and lastly, Rosalie stood behind everyone. On the other side, vampires kept pouring out of the forest, but they didn't attack. They stood looking at Rosalie, seemingly not seeing the others. But Damon and the others didn't say or do anything, but continued watching. 3 minutes passed, and finally, the vampires stopped pouring in, but they still didn't move to attack, nor did Damon and his pack. Damon's eyes were focused on the forest. He could feel and see the approaching original vampire. Whoosh! When he finally appeared, he, unlike the other, looked directly at Damon and ignored Rosalie. He could feel the danger of Damon. Rosalie, on the other hand, was pregnant. She couldn't exert her full power. Hand her over or die, he said, getting straight to the point. You really have no manners, do you? Not even a hello first before you start barking commands to your betters, says Damon. Inferior creature. You haven't the faintest idea of the trouble you have found yourself in. But since it's clear you won't listen, then the only other solution is your death. I have come to the same conclusion about you, says Damon. And with that, a peaceful resolution was off the table for good. Not that it was ever an option to begin with. They both looked at the other, rage and bloodlust pouring out of their very beings. As their auras started rushing out in full force, they both had no intention of holding back. They wanted the other's death more than anything. Boom! Blood red and dark blue aura took almost completely physical form because of the terrifying amount of aura being released by the two. As it collided, the ground shook and trees fell as the sky darkened. Boom! Damon disappeared from his spot. No one present could track his movement, as he appeared before Ezekiel and grabbed his face and disappeared, leaving the area. The vampires and the members of the pack didn't wait any longer as they rushed at each other, with Joey staying at Rosalie's side. By the end of the day, one side would be completely wiped out. Damon and Ezekiel. Boom! Damon and Ezekiel appeared in another area, as Damon flung him to the ground, creating a crater as dust covered it. But Ezekiel wasn't the original vampire for nothing. He immediately appeared, rushing at Damon. Paralyze! Ezekiel mumbled as some of his aura split from him and stuck on Damon. As Damon was about to dodge the attack, he found himself unable to move, quickly increasing his output of aura to free himself. But it was too late. Boom! Ezekiel's fist connected with Damon's face, throwing him backward with so much force his body flipped 3 times before he could stabilize himself. Damon, upon landing, dug his feet into the ground to stop, and quickly looked at the approaching enemy, quickly bringing his hands up to his face. Bam! Just in time, Damon blocked the latest attack, and quickly shifted to the side, catching Ezekiel in an awkward position. Damon delivered a punch to the side of his face, blasting him out with so much force the shock wave flattened the area. Damon didn't let up as he dashed off, following him soon. Catching up, Damon jumped above him and drops down a full-force kick in Ezekiel's chest, slamming him to the ground. Boom! The ground collapsed inward due to the force, as Ezekiel burrows downwards and the ground collapses on him. Damon drops to the ground as he looks on, knowing it wasn't near enough to kill his enemy. Rumble. Boom. The ground under Damon's feet started shaking violently, then blasted open. Bam. 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 Huge pieces of rock flew out towards Damon. As he destroyed them one after the other, instead of dodging, he kept his eyes on the huge hole formed. Whoosh! And as expected, Ezekiel jumps out with his clothing covered in dirt, but unhurt. The warm-up is over, says Damon as his aura increases once again. I agree, the warm-up is over. Ezekiel says, his voice full of murderous intentions. Boom! Boom! The ground under him cracked and collapsed under the sudden increase in his aura output, as the amount soon reached the level of Damon's and soon surpasses it. Blood pause. Damon suddenly felt his blood flow stop and his body was unable to move, but Ezekiel didn't give him a moment to think. Boom! A fist connected to Damon's face as he was flung back and slammed into the ground. The force sent him sliding across the ground. Quickly trying to stand, Damon found he still couldn't move his body. But with another quick movement, Ezekiel appeared before him again and took advantage of the fact that still couldn't move, and with one smooth motion, his hand went straight through Damon's stomach. Cough! Damon spat out some blood as he looked at Ezekiel. Damon didn't even look down at the hand running through his body, as he quickly grabbed Ezekiel's hand and tightened the grip. You really are stronger than I thought you would be, but it doesn't matter, you will die just the same, says Damon. As Damon's grip on Ezekiel's hand increased, his body began to change, and with it the amount of aura he was letting off increased. Damon became taller, ripping through his shirt. His hair became longer. He also grew fangs and claws as fur covered his body. He looked like a bipedal wolf as he loomed over Ezekiel. Growl! His restrained growl echoed and cracked the ground as Ezekiel's ears bleed. Damon, being far more ruthless in this form, was quickly shown as quickly took a step back as Ezekiel's hand came out of his stomach. Damon still didn't let go of the hand he was holding as he yanked on it hard, pulling Ezekiel forward, and delivered an astonishing blow with his other arm, slamming Ezekiel into the ground as dust covered everything. Boom! Growl! A low growl echoed, clearing the smoke and revealing the very surprising scene present. The transformed Damon stood at the edge of a huge pit, still holding onto Ezekiel's arm. The only difference was that Ezekiel was no longer attached to said hand as blood dripped onto the floor. Bloodbind. The arm Damon was holding was quickly thrown away, and as it burst open, ropes formed from its blood quickly surround Damon. But Damon wasn't slow to respond as he slashed the approaching ropes one after the other, destroying them all. As Damon destroyed the remaining blood rope, Ezekiel appeared finally out of the pit as his hand had regrown and grown razor-like claws he used to swipe towards Damon's chest. But Damon's senses were too sharp to be caught by surprise. But knowing the attack was coming, he didn't love, and the claw collided with his furry chest. Bam! As they collided, Ezekiel's claws bounced back, unable to even scratch the skin of Damon, as he responded thunderously, slamming his fist straight through Ezekiel's body. Boom! The force behind the attack was so powerful that it created a shockwave. Ezekiel, knowing impaled by Damon, had no time to focus on his injury as Damon grabbed his head with his other hand. His nails dug into the sides of Ezekiel's head as venom pumped into his body. And for the first time since the fight began, Ezekiel let out a pain-filled scream. Hearing the scream, Damon's nails dug deeper into his head as he continued to push his venom into his system. Perhaps knowing what was happening, Ezekiel's actions became erratic as his free hands attacked Damon with full force. Blow after full power blow landed heavily onto Damon's face, creating heavy gusts of wind with each attack. And even with his durability, Damon's face was bleeding heavily. But he didn't let go as venom pumped into Ezekiel's system. The hole in his stomach was bleeding more and more. It seems you're not healing very well, are you? Asked Damon in a deep voice. Ezekiel, ensuring the pain, didn't bother answering Damon as he continued his assault on Damon's face. But if one looked closely, it was clear to see that the attacks were becoming weaker and weaker as time passed, and as his system filled with venom. Feeling the strength, leaving his body as time passes, Ezekiel continues to try his best to continue his assault on Damon to escape from his hold. As much as I would love to torture you to death, my family is fighting right now. Obviously, their life is more important than my current enjoyment. Any last words? Damon asked, enduring the pitiful attacks hitting his face. Currently, Damon's previous wounds had already healed, and Ezekiel no longer had the strength to injure him. Now his attack strength was less than a love tap. Hearing Damon's question, Ezekiel's face became grim. As his attack stopped, he looked at Damon with an expression filled with anger and rage, but there wasn't a hint of sadness or regret. Ha 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 ha! I would never be killed by something imperfect. As the only perfect being in this world, I will be killed by another. All that's happened today is that I have decided that I have lived long enough. Only I can kill myself. You will never have the pleasure, and when I die you will follow, and so will your ridiculous pack, says Ezekiel. As he said that, Damon felt his instincts scream at him, but sadly as he was about to act on it. Blood pause. Ezekiel's voice sounded and Damon felt his body freeze. Knowing how to break free, he quickly tried to mobilize his aura. It's too late. Ha 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 ha, I'll see you in hell, Ezekiel shouted. Damon quickly got control of his body, and as he was about to throw Ezekiel's body away, boom! A gigantic explosion erupted, engulfing everything in sight. As Ezekiel had said, it really was too late. The shock wave of the explosion spread out, affecting the surrounding area for miles. As the effect affected the battle going on between Damon's pack and the vampires. The explosion was terrifyingly powerful. The shock wave spread, causing the ground where the remaining battle was happening to shake violently, and with the enhanced senses of the creatures present, the sound of the explosion managed to burst their eardrums, shocking them and causing the fighting to pause. But as the fighting paused, because of the shock caused by the explosion, the vampires present all felt it. The feeling of being entirely free for the first time since they were turned, and they all knew what it meant. The feeling they had when the original vampire was still alive was as if they were being suppressed and watched at every turn. One wrong move, and their lives would be over. But now that feeling was gone. Their instincts screamed they were free, and slowly smiles appeared on the faces of the vampires present, as they soaked in the feeling of being unrestricted. But it seemed as if in their excitement, they had forgotten there was another original vampire in the world currently. While they indulged in the fact they were free, a spontaneous action appeared in Rosalie's mind, and she could feel a new connection forming between her and many people. The connection was nothing like the one she had with Damon that allowed her to know his feeling and made them one. The new connection felt like she had gained control over those on the other end. And while the connection formed, the vampires that were relishing in the feeling of being free felt that feeling disappearing quickly as the old feeling of being suppressed returned, slowly becoming stronger as time passed. This had managed to shock them out of their joy as their eyes focused on Rosalie, knowing she was the cause of this. All of them, not being unwilling to be under the control of another again, charged forward with new rage. The pack had already fallen back to Rosalie's position when the fighting had stopped, but seeing the approaching wave attacking fearlessly, they no longer held back one after the other. They all transformed into their humanoid wolf form. The pack rushed forward, aiming to intercept the vampires at a good distance away from Rosalie, so she would have time to run if needed. The pack, which had managed to remain relatively uninjured in the first wave of fighting, was now getting injured as they were surrounded, and still had to stop vampires from approaching Rosalie. No one vampire could cause serious damage to the pack members, but as more injuries appeared before the one before healed, the injuries added up. But still, the pack fought on, killing vampires by tens, and the number of enemies dropped quickly. But as the injuries added on, there was bound to be a mistake, as one vampire managed to pass the pack members, all of who were occupied, not paying attention to anything else. The vampire ran quickly towards Rosalie, who was still immersed in the feeling of the many bounds forming and being destroyed as the pack killed more vampires. The vampire quickly reached Rosalie, and as he was about to run her through the chest with his hand, his body froze. And as Rosalie's eyes focused on him, his body collapsed into itself, becoming what appeared to be a small red floating ball. With the vampire's body crushed, Rosalie dropped it to the ground as she felt the connection disappear, meaning he was dead. Seeing the fighting going on in the distance, Rosalie's eyes turned cold as she reached out her hand and clenched her fist seemingly at nothing. But in response, one after the other, the vampires fighting dropped one after the other dead as the pack member turned and looked at Rosalie, finally having a chance for the injuries they have to heal. Seeing this, Rosalie finally smiled. Everything was done. Maybe if they didn't injure her family, some would have lived, but since they all had to die. I'm sorry you had to do this. It seems I took too long. A voice sounded behind Rosalie as her smile became brighter. It doesn't matter as long as everyone is safe. I'm happy, Rosalie said as she turned and faced Damon, who had returned, his chest covered in blood, as he looked embarrassed. Seems you were careless, Rosalie says. Yeah, who would have thought he would explode, says Damon. Time skip. Years had passed since the war between the vampires and the pack, and things have been peaceful ever since. The pack had left Forks 4 years ago to live in Europe peacefully as Joy, the daughter of Damon, and Rosalie grew up. Their daughter was born and grew at the normal speed for a human child, but she was anything but normal. She had all the powers of Damon and was an original vampire, and she was loved by everyone in the pack, especially Ocean, who had managed to pass on his pranks and joke to her. 14 years since the war, and even though there were no longer any enemies to fight, the pack members were always lively and things were always fun, just spending their time together. Everyone was sure they would enjoy this time for eternity as long as they stuck together. And as time passed, the pack was sure to expand with new children being added from the other members, so things would never become boring.
Hello, everyone. As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500+ novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.